So the only thing I have as a way to introduce what we're generally doing here today. Are y'all familiar with the kind of the episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where they had to teach Carlton about racism?
Mm-hmm.
No, but I love the sound of that.
Literally it's Will and Carlton are out driving and a cop stops them and like Carlton is like, don't worry, everything's gonna be fine. And Will's like, you're black in America. No, it's not. And Carlton has to learn about racism. It's part of what we call a very special episode. It's like a whole cultural like phenomena that like we have on television where all these shows that are largely not political have to at some point have a very special episode where there's a thing we have to talk about and we're gonna have to maybe invent a new character or do a whole thing just for today.
Yeah.
Just to talk about the very special topic. It's like if you're watching a show about a bunch of people who, you know, oh, usually what they do is they'll have superpowers and they put on a ring and they, you know, they talk about like their American values and they, you know, ride their bikes up a hill. This very special episode is one of them is going to get addicted to heroin.
Oh my God.
It's a trend on 90s television. And I was kind of thinking in my head, having you on today, JFK, is kind of Esotechnica's very special episode. It's like usually we talk about tech and esoteric knowledge. It's like, today we're talking about genocide.
Yeah, no. Now that the Jew is here, we can talk about genocide.
We had to invent you for today.
I will be exclusively calling you Jay today.
I am Jay.
Oh.
You know?
Okay, cool.
I'm
cool.
I'm Jadicus.
I'm Ja Rule.
Where's Ja Rule? Honestly, I do kind of like. I'm hoping in the future we'll have the ability to hit a button and like Mid-Journey or whatever evil version of it we're using in the future will just real time generate whatever the news I'm looking at on stream is with like somebody asking where's Ja Rule to talk about this, like Iran's being bombed. Just superimpose real time somebody looking for Ja Rule over the footage.
Who gives a fuck what Ja Rule
Iran
thinks?
being bombed. Where's Ja
do.
Rule to explain this?
There is an so I used to be an H3 fan, right? And they use like sound bites all the time, and one of their favorites and my personal favorite was a Ja Rule sound bite where he's talking about the Fire Festival.
Oh boy.
And the sound bite is like that's not fraud, I would call that false advertising, which is
fraud. Yeah.
And just like that, welcome to Esotechnica, the most competent tech history and 90s R&B podcast on Beyonce's, on Taylor Swift's internet. So, hey everybody, what's your names? What are your pronouns?
I'm Celtic, he, him, sorry.
I'm JFK, or just Jay, he, him.
There you go.
And I
No
am...
apology noted.
And I am Jelly. Jelly like jam. They, them, if you please. All right, so... yeah, today we got a 33% more competent episode of Esotechnica for you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
So, first of all, anybody want to
I have
comment?
to Google 33% and see if it's a dog whistle. Bear.
Yeah, please.
Anybody pulls a number. Anyone pulls a number out of their head in 2025, it's like, hold on.
Wait a
How's
second.
that? Your lucky number is number 7. Be right back.
Dude,
and check the history of that word.
I feel bad for anyone that was born in 1988, right? Because if you're making a handle on the internet and you have 88, and I'm just like, you are a Nazi, 100%. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you don't look. Here's the thing. You don't need that. You know, right? Look, I'm gonna give a gift to anybody who is a 88 enjoyer for birthday reasons. Just be 0 squared. You know why? Think about it. A square of zeros just looks like 2 8s. There you go.
Whoa. Damn.
Number one geometry.
So
podcast,
your
too.
shit, 88ers.
I've just solved racism.
Thank God.
For anyone who doesn't know, an
specifically,
alphanumeric code, 8 is related to the letter H because it's H is the 8th letter, and so Nazis like to say Heil Hitler by saying 88.
I learned, like, honestly, from Twitch, I learned new like anti-Semitic dog whistles and like canards
Mm-hmm.
and shit. Like from just by being more online, I've learned like new stuff.
So
Which is
without getting
crazy.
too into what we're going to be talking about, so you're saying you fully support the ADL's war on Dan Clancy?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's about damn time that Dan got what was coming to him. Frankly,
For running the most racist leftist site on the. God.
Absolutely.
All right, no, we can't joke about that too much. People will come for us. There is people out there who do not understand sarcasm or humor, or it's on purpose.
oh then we're
anyway.
fucked today. That's
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's my
I'm-
love language.
If there's already if there's watch lists to be on, I'm on them. All right. I'm like a one man Netflix. It's just watch lists.
You're on my watch
sorry,
list.
So Jelly, we have to break
Celtic-
the suspense. We've been psychically edging this image. What the fuck is happening?
Oh, this is Sabra, the
The
Marvel,
hummus.
something like that. The Israeli superhero from Marvel.
Yeah.
By day,
I did actually watch the newest Marvel movie that had
Yeah,
Sabra
she's in
in
it.
it completely
Wait,
legally
what?
for free somehow.
Wait, what'd you say?
Wait,
Yeah,
did you
no,
not know that she's in it?
No.
They put her in the MCU, yeah. And no, it gets worse. The person they got to play her is Israeli and had a military exemption to not be in the IDF.
It's for the fucking because
Was such a Zionist, yeah. She fought the military exemption to serve in the IDF anyway.
Oh God, I didn't know that part. So obviously this was the
We
new
are
Captain
so
America
cooked.
movie. I watched it as well. It was absolute ass, like trash, like
Terrible.
bottom tier, just the worst movie ever.
As somebody who likes
And-
most of the Marvel movies, because like I recognize that
Thank
they're
you.
brain dead. As somebody who
Yeah.
likes most of the Marvel movies, if I give the average Marvel movie a 6 or a 7, because I kind of think Marvel movies like a Happy Meal. It's
Yeah.
never good, but it's fine. It's meal. You're gonna feel good, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point. All it provides is a quick happy. This was a solid 2 out of 10. It was kind of hard to even follow.
That's generous. That's generous.
Yeah. Well, 2 out of 10 is a film, including the genocidal maniac in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, it comes down to like worse than that. I don't. Where do we have a rating? I'm not gonna do a genocidal tier list. But it's just. I think it automatically puts you in your own category of this is some freak shit.
Yeah. So this was reshot. I don't know how many times, maybe just the one time, but it was reshot because of the genocide in Gaza, and they retconned
To make the character
her
a smaller part because of the protests.
a smaller part, and they made her like a Black Widow, like she was a Russian asset and not a Israeli asset.
Mm-hmm. Also, isn't I might be wrong on this. I might have my chronology fucked up, but isn't the naming of like the hummus? I think Sabra. Like that's after a massacre, or is that totally unrelated? Because I know there is a Sabra massacre like from like the 80s.
I learned about this because of fucking Ethan Klein, you know, trying to deplatform every single pro-Palestinian Arab content creator. Because I didn't know about this either. Sabra is a Jew that was born in Israel.
Which, for the
Oh,
record,
okay.
yeah, if you read that, the editor's note in the bottom right-hand corner of the comic, it reads, the word Sabra denotes a native-born Israeli. The name derived from an indigenous form of fruit, a prickly pear possessed of a sweet interior, a spiny outer surface to protect it from its enemies. Now,
Okay.
I'll
I
let
gotta be
you
honest
finish.
with
I'll
that
let you-
information. I have to judge this superhero's aesthetic, because if it's supposed to, like, if it's based on something with like a prickly pear,
Spines,
like, it's based on a porcupine. It's based on a porcupine, and I'm looking at this. I'm like, you made her a bird.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that what I thought that was a cape? That is quills?
I guess it's supposed to be, but like I'm basically saying this
I don't
is
know
this
what's
is
going
like
on
this
here.
is a shit character. Whoever got hired
This
to
is a
make
bad character.
whoever got hired to make this was like, oh, I'm making Nazi man. Well, I'm gonna phone it in.
This
Well, I don't know,
That's
like-
my protest. Like I got rent to pay, but I'm dialing it in on Nazi man.
This character silhouette's terrible.
Listen, she represents my fucking culture, so that's I find that very offensive. And she's a badass. Look at her. She
What the fuck does she have to do
what
in
are her
America?
powers? Could she like? She's flying clearly. What else can she do?
Probably,
she can probably
She's
load
determined
mortars
to
at
preserve
supersonic
her
speed.
homeland from the ravages.
Of Hulk, yes.
I'm trying real hard. I was like, I was reaching. I'm like, hey, I could probably make a joke, and then I'm like, you know what?
Make them.
I'm not going to because I don't want to fuck up that Apex sponsorship for the stream. So
Oh yes,
There you go.
absolutely.
I want when they hit us up to like
Yeah.
sponsor the pod, you're welcome.
Hey,
Are you guys
Cuomo,
getting
if you-
APAC checks? The fuck?
Hey Cuomo,
No,
if you really,
but like,
if you
I'm
really
not- I'm
want
also
that
not
dough,
getting Soros checks. Yeah, I'm also not getting Soros checks. So until somebody makes me an offer, I'm staying apolitical. All right.
There. Is this an apolitical podcast?
no politics
It was
here.
until episode 1.
Okay.
Yeah, we ripped the band-aid off when we started, but originally.
I just like
right.
I'm looking at the third panel here. She's determined to preserve her homeland from the ravages of the Hulk. Seems like Israelis are always, determined to preserve their homeland because they are indigenous. So that is
Yes, absolutely.
it all checks out.
Just
Yeah.
like the Saber cactus.
Yeah,
Right.
and they're indigenous because with Iran now bombing Israel, we're hearing so many reports of them having to go to their second homes in countries like Ireland or America. Ireland just evacuated 12 Israeli citizens to Ireland with the help of Austria for some fucking reason. Like, what? My opinion, I'm actually happy we got them out of Israel because now we have them in a country with laws apparently. So could we just investigate like were they any of them attached to the West Bank? Could we maybe? My government won't do that; they're cowards. But I would like some of the people we just rescued from Iran or defending itself, maybe to go to jail.
Yeah.
we'll get to settler colonialism and the crimes of Israel in a moment. Yeah, goddamn. Let me read the dialogue on this fucking comic here. The military are in no shape. No, this is her before she changes. Wait, are in no shape to go after the Hulk. That leaves me to stop the monsters before he menaces the rest of Tel Aviv. Not as policewoman Ruth Ben Sarah, of course, but as Sabra.
Super heroine
This is
of
the
the state of
craziest shit.
Israel.
I'm sorry, I can't even read the rest. Yeah.
Quilled
God.
cape streaming behind her.
This is like fairly common. Is Israelis will forego their European last names for something like quote unquote indigenous sounding. Ben Sarah.
Yeah.
That's an indigenous last name.
Yeah, that's indigenous as fuck.
I have no idea what it means.
I know that Gal Gadot, her real last name is it, I think it's Greenstein or something like that. And also Netanyahu's family. I don't know which member of the family, but that's
and
also
Ben-Gvir.
been changed.
Netanyahu's from like is it Poland originally? His
Yeah.
family.
Oh no, he's from Philadelphia.
Well, yeah, he's Ben from PA. No, but before that, he was like his grandfather or whatever. Because like ultimately a lot of these people are European, or from the European, like the neo Europe of the United States.
Because remember, there were just Jews in Palestine and, what we now call Israel. Before 1948, they were just mostly brown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This
Which is
actually came up.
inconvenient if you want a religious ethnostate.
This actually came up like recently in my last stream. Actually, is right. So, I have a Zionist past, which
Yep.
I constantly have to like check myself to make sure that like the conditioning, the propaganda that I like fed into and like was a part of is not still informing my ideologies or the way that I like behave. And sometimes I'm not sure, and I have to like ask my chat to like, hey, check me on this, like is this kosher or not?
Yeah.
Fair, pun intended. Anyway, it was someone came in and said all Israelis are settlers, and I was like, my knee-jerk reaction is that's not constructive. And then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, but I don't disagree with you. And then I thought about it even more, and my moderator Levantine was like, there are actual Jews, Mizrahi Jews, who are from the area, so that's not even true. And we talked about it, and I found like the knee-jerk reaction to be like, that's not constructive, that's not helpful. It came from, I could feel it coming from like a defensive standpoint. I don't know if that's interesting.
No, I get you. Yeah, no. You were trying to defend the idea that there is some people who are indigenous to the region, which like not everybody who lives in Israel. Israel hasn't completed its project of removing everybody who lived there originally.
Well, it wasn't like my impulse was to like from a defensive standpoint. It was my moderator who came in and said, this is like more nuanced than how it's being portrayed.
But that's the thing, yeah. You've kept like Swana people around you. Like when you're saying you rely on your community, it's a community of people who like are like Palestinian or Arab or in other ways like more informed on the region. So like you're not in like a hug box of people who are going to tell you whatever you want to hear. You're in a box of people who are informed on it. Like this is something I talk about on stream quite a lot. I call it room construction because I got this from a book, Too Big to Know. Which is like what to do in the world is too big to know. Like there's just, you can't know all the information. No one person can. So individualism is dead in the modern day because there's just so much information. So it takes so much to be an expert now that to be an expert in everything's impossible. Yeah. So what do? You construct a room where intellectual conversation and fact checking can go on, and you accept that sometimes you're going to be incorrect. That's just the nature of the beast. There's like if you try to live your life to never have a wrong opinion, you will basically live in a prison of fear because that's impossible. It is. So instead, you just try best practice of having a community of people with diverse experiences that can correct you. And that's why this is related to like pedagogy of the oppressed and horizontalism in education, non-hierarchical education. Like this is like an ongoing developing thing. People are still trying to figure out. But basically, there is no. I remember there's a famous Tom Scott lecture. I've seen like a lot of people reference it over the years. But the premise that he found when he looked into this is there is no algorithm for truth. There's no way to develop a news outlet or whatever that will fundamentally always have an algorithm to spew out the truth. We don't have that. We can't even define the truth in like an objective like. We can't find truth atoms in certain stories and not in others, So ultimately, like you're always trying to build these best practices. So like I think that's fine. Like you're saying, like because another thing I've talked about on stream is like in my view, and feel free to interrupt me if I'm wrong here, but Zionism is kind of like a cult. It's kind of like leaving a cult. And we'll get into this probably more later after we cover the little bit of news we're gonna cover, but it's like leaving a cult, and it's like somebody was leaving like. Any like doomsday cult or whatever, you already have to forfeit like a certain amount of your mind to you've been propagandized against, you've been brainwashed. You need to lean on others who don't have that exact same misinformation just to make sure that the conversations are there so that you're not operating on those premises. That's it. And that's usually enough.
I completely agree. I think that unfortunately I don't have many I have had to seek out the anti-Zionist Jewish connections that I rely on now. I had to seek them out. I didn't have anyone like going through this sort of like deprogramming. Exactly as you say, it is like leaving a cult. So I had to seek those connections out, but like I think it would be silly to sort of say like, okay, now I'm out and that no longer informs, the the way that I behave and the way that I act. Like there's like certain, I don't know, like neural pathways that were formed in certain like lines of thinking that I can still sometimes
Like,
feel myself, going to.
without getting too into it, sorry, this is like, we will get to the news, right? We will.
We
Inshallah,
promise.
Well, are either of you familiar with the name? And I'm touching on this. If somebody listening to this knows more than me, understand that like I've looked into this about as much as I care to. This is TikTok bullshit. All right. Are either of you familiar with Mercedes Chandler?
No.
Fucking bless you. Mercedes Chandler is new liberal darling, lesbian, and like very popular content creator on TikTok. Yeah, it's Pride Month, by the way. This is something we should probably talk about during Pride Month. Mercedes was the former leader of Gays Against Groomers. Is now a liberal darling for having left it, and is pushing back on Gays Against Groomers, which is a W usually. I love that. Except there's a bit of a thing about leaving a movement like that and then jumping right to the top of the queue and then being combative when other people tell you that you still haven't worked through all of your bullshit. Like, this is something that's the difference between like what you're describing for yourself, JFK. You're saying like you have like left something and now you're leaning on other people and you're deliberately looking for people to cross-reference and talk to. Where Mercedes is yelling at people for being too woke and fucking up the the Unfuck America tour and all this other stuff. Which basically the fucking up the Unfuck America tour, without getting too into that, was some people were being allegedly racist. There's allegations that like the white creators were being paid to attend, but like black creators weren't. Like literally just straight up racism at a left wing of Unfuck America movement. And when this was brought up to Mercedes, she basically told people, go fuck yourself a little bit. Like, like, come on. Like, we need to be very serious. We're fighting fascism. Come on. Like, it's okay to have a little tolerance to some racism, like, again, I'm being very short. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's effectively the gist. And that's fucked up some people's vibes around this because they're like, no, you were in a fucking anti-trans cult like 2 years ago. You don't get to be authoritative on telling us what right-wing propaganda to swallow.
I was gonna ask because you said Gays Against Groomers. I have no idea what that is, and I'm like, immediately my first thought was that sounds transphobic. So yeah. I'm glad that my impulse was.
Yeah. So basically, Gays Against Groomers, for anyone who's not familiar, effectively, the right wing have been calling everyone who's LGBTQ a groomer. So gays, lesbians, everyone. They're just like, oh, you're gay in public, you're a groomer, and that's because they inherently sexualize anybody who's LGBTQ. And because they inherently sexualized and they think that them existing around children is inherently problematic, because of their own biases, Gays Against Groomers was this effort by some evil gay people to basically be like, no, they're not like us and other trans people, by saying, no, we're good gays. We're against the groomers. And they were going to like out like drag queens and trans people as like the problem. And Mercedes was a high-ranking member of that. As a lesbian. As far as I know, I believe that's her identity.
That pick me attitude is there are like Jews, they're Zionist Jews on the right who sort of give conservative thought like the pass to be like, you can speak for us because here I am the token Jew saying, I actually love Israel and you should too. I hate people that like tokenize themselves like that.
Yep. It's the worst. All right, so before we get too deep into that, do we have another slide, Jelly, on news? Do we have more?
Yeah. Real quick, I do just want to add an editor's note to the editor's note. So it says the word sabra denotes a native-born Israeli name derived from an indigenous form of fruit, a prickly pear. Yeah. It's just fucking nopal. Like, it's a cactus native to Mexico.
Oh.
It's on the Mexican fucking flag, dog. Like, cactuses did not grow in the New World. Like, cactuses, with the exception of like a couple places, cactuses didn't exist, in Afro-Eurasia. That they were a product that was brought back after, Columbus and all that fuckery. This, like the
Fair.
sapla,
I hate to be
plant.
an actually word nerd here, but you're saying the plural for cactus as cactuses. It's
Cacti.
actually
Oh,
no,
Jesus
it's
Christ.
cactusy bussies.
Oh, I'm
Fuck
sorry.
no, dude. A cactusy?
So yes, the cactuses were brought over from from the New World, during the whole like Columbus thing, and I just think it's very telling that this plant was actually invasive, being brought in and spread
Yeah.
and then used as a symbol of indigeneity. It is.
Very funny to identify the like.
Is it
This be like
edible?
if
What part
the
do you eat?
this be like
You.
if the indigenous what was it?
Oh, to answer JFK's question, what can you eat? So yeah, this cactus is edible, and you can just eat the petals. All right, here's a fun little lesson for you. So you got to get the spines off. They're called glow kids, and so you can just like run a knife over
Glow
it.
kids. I thought those were edgy kids in my Twitch chat. Boom. There you go. Sorry, that's one.
Boom, got him.
Glowies.
Erect.
Kidding.
But,
I love my Twitch chat. I don't have any Fed posting.
I hate your
So yeah, you can scrape off the glow kids, and but then you run the risk of maybe one of two of them might like re-embed themselves into skin. And so one way you can just avoid all of that is the glow kids. They are very hard. They are made of organic material, and they are very thin rods. So what this means is they burn very easily. So what you can do is you can just cut yourself off a paddle, pass it over a fire or pass a lighter over it or whatever, and you only have to do it for like a few seconds, and all the glow kids will just burn off down to the stub. And yeah, you can pretty much de-glow kid, de-spine a nopal in like 30 seconds. And then after that, you like slice it up. You can like salt it, grill it, and then people like put tacos in it. People pickle it, and then also the little fruit nubbles you see growing on the tops of the paddles. Those are in Spanish they're called tuna, not to be confused with the fish, which has a different word in Spanish, but whatever. And so yeah, those are the prickly pears. They're just the little like nuggets of like sour sweet fruit. Makes a delicious like juice beverage. And so yeah, that's usually how you eat Nepal.
I was gonna say it is funny that so you're saying a invasive imported like plant is become the symbol of indigeneity for Israelites there, yeah? Or Israelis, they're not Israelites. My brain is fucking blanked. The heat is melting me. But Israelis, yeah?
Blackest Tech
That's
podcast
similar.
on this interweb.
But that's actually what do you call it? Similar in the United States, because y'all know if I was to say to you like symbol, like plant-based symbol of Americana, old school Americana,
tree?
what are you thinking? I was gonna say tumbleweed, cowboys, like that the famous.
Well, to be honest, I have a
think of
different
tumbleweeds are
Baby.
invasive species.
I have a different association because like while they did kind of afterwards become co-opted, like the original connotation of them was that they were a fucking menace to the prairies. And so yeah, they were like the bane of many people's existences.
That's what I'm saying. It's an invasive species. Invasive species usually is a bad thing, and tumbleweeds are invasive. I was also googling. For is there other examples? And apparently, the North American beaver. Apparently, the United States is actually riddled with this. It's actually just an American problem. Y'all have like the beaver. Apparently, the current strain of beaver there is not indigenous. Is a problem. And also,
damn.
kudzu in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh yeah,
Which is
kudzu.
Japanese like arrow, root. Yeah, also like has been spreading like wildfire there. So yeah, apparently
Yeah,
a whole
it is
bunch of
edible and it grows.
Yeah, so apparently America is just actually like overflowing, which America is just 18 invasive species in a trench coat.
As any good sovereign nation should be. All right, so you know what? Fuck it. Let's go into the news now. Things
Awesome.
keep fucking happening.
Yeah, Donnie with the bands drops the BAM on Iran. Holy shit.
Jesus. With a bunker buster
Yeah.
bomb.
So my experience of this was particularly interesting. I went live planning to yap about. I don't know if y'all have heard. Disney has officially sued Midjourney.
I did not hear that.
Yeah, for copyright infringement. So the AI boom might be about to come to an end. And I was planning on yapping about that for a bit, and then everyone was just coming into chat being like, "Did you hear the news?" And I'm like, "What?" Like, the United States just bombed Iran. I'm like, "Oh shit." And I had to like on stream just go through like talking about it. Which like yeah, I feel like the threat of war in the Middle East, I did find I didn't have any time to run this by you earlier. Have y'all seen people are pointing out that American intervention in the Middle East is related to sunspots?
No,
Ooh, really?
this is esoteric.
now,
Isn't it a
this is a
recession
great
indicator as well?
Well, this is a great opportunity to say that correlation does not imply causation. People usually use that really just erroneously, but this is an example of using it correctly. But yeah, here I'll put it in the side chat if you want to somehow pull it up on stream or put it in the thing later. But for yourselves to look at, yeah, working on a theory that U.S. intervention in the Middle East is correlated to 11-year solar cycle of sunspot activity, and then like there was actually an outlier where off schedule, we went and did Libya. But if you look, there's actually a solar sunspot like flare up right when they went to do Libya. So this person's like, no. You know?
I went to do Libya.
Yeah. Well, my entire point being is that yeah, this is just a funny correlation because I don't know if y'all are familiar. Do y'all know what happens when Nicolas Cage appears in more movies?
Is that also a recession indicator? I have no
Kind
idea.
of. So what happens when Nicolas Cage is in more movies is that people have a tendency to drown in their domestic pools.
Oh. He should stop being in
there's
movies.
no causation. Well, that's the thing. There's no causation. Nobody knows why those two things be related because they're not. It's just a quirk of the noise. In a world of so much data, there's always something that correlates with something. Like I'm pretty sure every time like I jerk off, there's some sort of a meaningful statistical data that like how itchy like Anthony Fauci's asshole gets. You know what I mean? Like you could just find some sort of a pattern. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean that there's like a singular soul spiritually bound to like my foreskin and his butthole. Like,
I kind of wish there was, though.
I mean, it would make the universe more interesting. Sure, magic tends to. It's just apparent, and we're apparently going in right on time for another big thing.
Science is beautiful.
Yeah, but I do want to specify because we are like a kind of somewhat educational podcast. This is mostly bollocks. This is data, but correlation does not imply causation. People use this all the time. They use this to be dismissive of things where there is causation. We use correlation in science. So obviously, I studied physics. Okay, you have a PhD. Like, if you want to talk about like thermal expansions of metal, and Jelly, you've worked with machining, so actually all of us would probably know about this. Like, if you want to talk about like thermal expansions of metals and such, like you literally just use the correlation of like how much heat you added to the metal and how much it literally just changed in width to figure out like its coefficient of thermal expansion. And then based on like other things like some quirks of Young's modulus and such, you're able to figure out kind of what the fail points would be, and that's all just correlations by plugging it into Excel spreadsheets and just doing some maths. We do use correlation, but that's because we know that when you heat metal, it expands. That's the cause. Like we need to have some, like, why are we doing this? Why are we using that data? What are we looking for in the first place? Just finding noise in data later, like, did you know that every time there's an increase in sunspot activity, we tend to go and invade Iran? This is Alex Jones or Tucker Carlson. What's going on here? Increase in sunspots, and then we have to go and invade Iran?
You might have did something dangerous in even like putting this graphic out there because now we're gonna see it in a Curse Cassette video about how 2030 is shaping up to be the most peaceful time on planet Earth.
Right.
Yeah, no, well, the Kurtzagot's going to do the, 2030 is going to be the most peaceful time because the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are actually going up to negotiate with the sunspots. And they're going to explain
nice
to
of
the
them.
sunspots why Africa can't have vaccines.
God bless Bill
I think
and
I
Melinda.
stopped watching Kurzgesagt when there was like a 2-part thing about like weed is good and weed is bad. They like did centrism on weed.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay,
You should see their newest one about fentanyl, where basically they try and explain why fentanyl is so good. And what they do is they actually explain why heroin is so good. And then they say that fentanyl actually is like shit heroin and it's terrible. But the crux of their argument for why heroin is so addictive, the crux of their argument for why fentanyl is so addictive is because it's basically heroin. But
And
the reason
heroin
why
is
it's so
great.
bad it needs to be stomped out is because it's not as. But the reason it's so bad it needs to be stomped out is because fentanyl is a worse high than heroin. It's more dangerous than heroin, and like it basically just isn't heroin. And it's like,
Just
so why do
grow
we
up and
spend
do fucking
90% of the
heroin.
video talking about heroin if the but the whole point they make is like, oh no, heroin is amazing for like 90% of the video, and then right at the end they're like, and fentanyl is shit. And it's like, but the hook of your video was why fentanyl is so good. And you didn't even like explain it. Like, what? They're such a propaganda. Like at this point, like they're literally doing their program shit. Like Kurtzagot is just straight up propaganda at this point. Like, they're the worst.
Dare
They're
taught
the worst.
me all of the coolest drugs and how they make you feel. So
Yeah.
I'm really proud of going through the Dare program and just learning about like how awesome certain drugs are.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like my high school not even high school, my middle school health teacher was like explaining like, oh, like the biology of weed plants and how like, you have male and female plants and like, you can like put them apart at, different distances to, make them release stronger pheromones, more cannabinoids and etc. And like in the time I was just like, ooh, wow, these drug dealers are smart people. And I was like, you did not need to explain to me all that.
Sounds like fun, actually.
All right, next news item.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Wait, before you move on,
Okay.
there's a meme. Before you move on, there's a meme on my in my community in my stream about like all of the BBBBBs, right? So we had bleach blonde, bad built, butch body. That was the first one, and then that one was quickly followed up with build back better, right? And then we had big beautiful Bill, and now we have bunker buster bomb. So I have been like chimeraing these together, and because I know that Celtic is a wordsmith, I need to know how to finish this off, because right now I have bleach blonde, bad build back better, bunker buster bomb, and then separately big beautiful butch body. So somehow those need to be fused.
I just feel like it needs to be something like big, beautiful, bombing baddies, bombing Baghdad badly, blundering, big, like, like it just needs to, like, it just needs to be like,
I should just feed it into like an AI music.
No, you shouldn't.
Fucking thing.
Yeah. Suno AI or whatever, one of those fucking ones. Yeah.
That's
All
it.
right,
That was my aside. I have to.
I would like to.
So I'm gonna do that
pee
really quick.
Yeah. And this is a time for anybody who has a JFK stub and is somehow able to use it in the chat that does not follow a podcast to spam the don't pee emo. But yeah.
Practices piss retention everywhere, but on our
Fucking-
podcast.
On Iran, I would like to say, hot take, big political. I'm against bombing Iran.
So brave. So brave.
Yeah. I'm against bombing Iran. That's my big take.
I
Also,
love the
some
military.
Irish people are now worried that Ireland is going to get bombed now, and I'm like, y'all are silly
What the
billies.
fuck are y'all on?
They think we're gonna get bombed because basically 90% of the weapons doing a lot of this is going to Irish airspace. So like, if Ireland stops refueling American war jets in Shannon Airport, basically like they'd have to refuel them somewhere else. It wouldn't actually do anything. America just likes to do it in like we're we're like a reluctant member of NATO, so America likes to like get as much blood on us as they can. So they just like for the love of the game refuel their war jets in Ireland. But yeah, people are like that kind of makes us a good soft target because Israel is shipping munitions and bombs through Irish airspace. So like that kind of does like, it puts a target on us, but Iran's not evil. That's your mistake. Iran's not sitting there going, "How can we mess up the Irish?" They like the Irish.
Plus, like, it would have to cross through Ukrainian, French, German, and British airspace to do that.
Oh yeah, also yeah. And at that point, like if you could bomb Ireland, like London, I'm joking. I'm not gonna say that. What? Come on. All the things one could say.
We take no opinions. There is no politics here on the Esotechnica
That's-
podcast.
Yeah, I've never had a politic in my life.
Opinions?
We talking politics here, brother?
Politic? Is that some kind of noodle?
I was just saying that for me politically, I don't think we should have bombed Iran.
Really?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, that's where I'm
But it's
at.
so good. It's so good for our well, for one, right? It's doing the bidding of our favorite little client state, Israel, and that's good and makes us look great, I think. And two, it starts, you know, more further tensions in the Middle East, which I also love because I'm racist, just generally, like baseline. And then three, you know, you ever seen Old Glory? You ever seen that Star Spangled Banner? All right, that's all I gotta say.
Reasonable, fair.
I bought a Prime. I'm drinking Prime for the first time in my life, and
Does it taste like Twitch?
it's really bad. It's really not good at all, actually.
Bizrat Hashem,
I'd
we will
imagine
make
so.
this work.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, yeah.
No,
okay,
no,
so,
this is the Israeli episode. Say it in Hebrew.
Oh right. Shit. Fuck. Israel high.
Is it problematic if I'm like, oh, you know, the classic Israeli old saying, "Welcome to New York" or something like, you know, is that?
No, I hear. I'll give you both the Jew pass. You guys can say the K slur. All right. You can make
not going
oven
to.
jokes.
Well, I don't know what it is. I don't know what my vibes are. People are always offering me to pass to say slurs about their people. I'm always my general stance is going to be I'm not going to use it, but I appreciate it. Right? Look, I take it as a compliment that you trust me with this, and as a symbol of trust, I'm not going to use it.
I think on like some sick level, I just kind of want to hear people like I'm kind of fucked in the head. And I kind of like when I hear anti-Semitic shit, it kind of like excites me a little bit in a really sick way. So that's what I'm about.
Have you seen the movie Kneecap?
No,
I have not.
Oh, wait, no.
So
Is it based on the musical group?
yes, it's about them. And Mokkada, the one that the United States is trying to, the one that the United Kingdom is trying to say is terrorist because he had a Hezbollah flag. Yeah.
Yeah.
His character in the movie actually is into having sex with unionist girls and having them call him anti-Irish, like
Oh my
concepts, and,
God.
like, call him like a dirty fiend while they
that would-
ride.
No joke. That would be me.
That's
I did.
diabolical. Y'all are down terrible.
I truly, if like a chatter comes in, we like all the time, just like the strangest shit. I'm sure you both know. Like the last time I streamed, someone was like, "Oh, I want to say something, but it might come off as racist." I got visibly excited. I was like, "Please, please tell me the racist thing you want to say." It turned out not to be racist. It was about South Africa and how they're, you know, doing a white genocide. And the chatter's like, "I don't think that there is a white genocide." And I'm like, "Nope, that's not. That's just true, actually."
Unfortunately, you've just found the truth, the least interesting, but the best for your mental health outcome. All right, so on to the next slide. They freed
They,
our fucking boy, Mahmoud Khalil.
yeah,
About damn time.
Mahmoud Khalil was finally released
AOC
from.
continues to baffle and confuse.
Yeah, her snake ass is kind of
I think
ruining the picture, but
Yeah.
Is she? I think she's like moving to the center because she has like higher aspirations and whatever.
Yeah.
Like every time a politician goes to the center, it's like, okay, you're gonna run for something.
yeah.
Can I be real? I'm actually really disappointed with the quality of posting on the internet right now, and I'm gonna very specifically call out every single person. So like all 8 billion of you, listen the fuck up, right?
Yeah.
So everyone keeps comparing Alexandria to Nancy Pelosi. Yeah. Now I hope I hope I'm not breaking ground here. Pelosi is 3 syllables and ends in C. AOC is
Fuck.
3 syllables and ends in C. She's Nancy AOC. That's it. That's the
all-
term. Where are
It's
people not saying that?
also a triangle has 3 corners, so Illuminati confirmed.
Yeah. And
Also-
Tower 7 just did that.
Also, Ronald Reagan was the devil. Ronald Wilson
No, but you
Reagan,
get what I'm saying?
666.
No, but what I'm
Oh,
just saying is like people
fuck.
keep trying to come up with like they keep calling her like like Nancy Cortez and all this. I'm like no, like please, Nancy AOC is right there as a term to call her. Like if you're looking for like a
Yeah.
little fun quip word, it's just her name is already there. I'm sorry. Like why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Like oh with the power of a megaphone and a squirrel, I've made a megaphone. Just taping the
Well,
squirrel
yeah,
to the
why
megaphone.
is she?
like,
Why is she standing there actually? Like, because now I'm looking at this photo and it's like this should be a moment for
Yeah.
Mahmoud and Noor to like be reunited, and it's like get in there,
Upper-
AOC.
opportunism is this. This is honestly 90% of being a politician is being in these photos.
Yep.
I mean, she's slaying for sure. Like, she looks great.
But that's it. But 90% of being a politician is being in these photos. Like when you think of like any politician you can name who's famous and like is a big like oh he's a cool leftist. It's usually just like 5 or 6 key photos of like of like zeitgeist shaping moments that they're now central to for some reason. They go oh he was there when they did X. He was when they got that guy. He was there. And same thing for like right wingers. Everyone does this. You know what I mean? Like I've talked to Republicans who love George Bush, and when I ask why, like I push, and like spent months talking to some right wingers, and they'll literally be like, "Mission accomplished." Like we got him. Like he's the guy who did it. And it's like, well, actually, it was Obama who killed.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Bin Laden.
Actually, it was Obama just ordered the strike. John Cena carried it out.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Obama didn't stand under a big banner that said "Mission accomplished." So for anybody who's really stupid, George Bush got the guy personally. He's who's under the banner that says "We did it."
True. I see shapes and colors, and I don't think further than that. So you got a point.
Yeah.
I'm glad that listen, I was very cynical about this for obvious reasons. The fact that Mahmoud got released, I still can't believe that even happened. I thought that the Trump admin was gonna double down, triple down, quadruple down, and just hold him because purely they're unwilling to admit a mistake that they made. I'm glad he's out, and Jesus Christ, I don't know.
Let this be the motivation you need to push you to keep going. We can still affect change. We can still move the needle.
Yeah. What I'm hoping comes of this now that the Trump administration has had to admit a fault, now that a judge has basically slapped them on their raging hate penis and told them no, and they've had to just curl back a little, one notch on the flassometer. I genuinely think that this could be the start of a huge retraction, but But if liberals, and this is a warning to anyone who's like a lukewarm, fucking room temperature milk ass person, you need to not completely buckle and fold right now, because if you do, it will be full teeth out fascism. Because if they can come back from this and go after the next person, and there isn't a bigger uproar and people pointing at the like precedent set by getting Mahmoud out, like it's rip and tear until it is done. America is going full Reich. This is like either this means something, or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, oh boy.
Ooh, yeah. You better buckle
We
in,
have
baby.
the collective memory of like a guppy. I don't know. Maybe I'm like too pessimistic on this, but I truly, I don't know. I guess time will tell.
Hope is revolutionary, and knowing the value of it is good. Whether you think it's going to happen or not, it's still that like people have to do it. Like that is still the recipe. Like right now, this has to be a unifying, galvanizing thing. So often things hit, and then everyone goes, "Wow, that's so cool," and then it just goes away, and then everyone goes back to as if it didn't happen. Like we had this with Luigi. We won't say what the galvanizing sentiment was there, for legal reasons, but a lot of people are just like, "That's wicked cool." And maybe I'm saying that the arrest was wicked cool. Who knows? But then we had it with like the ice protests. Like a lot of people were like these are kind of based. Like, we got to get out and do stuff. Like we had it with BLM. Like huge uprising of everyone just being like fuck racism, and then it just kind of went away. And then racism just came back in like the biggest way it's ever been. Like it's like, what the fuck is happening? Not the biggest way it's ever been, but biggest way it's ever been in recent memory. It's like, what the fuck is this happening? Like, we need this one to not just become something that we forget about and then go, oh yeah. Like this can't be something that we see in a fucking roundup video in a couple of years and be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. This has to be like something important. And that starts by just yourself treating it with some reverence and celebrating it and actually like bringing it up and talking to people about it. And and when some liberal says some shit like, well, I think Trump can do that, it's like, Mahmoud Khalil, shut the fuck up, you fucking piece of shit, you don't know shit, you're a dumbass motherfucker, you don't know shit. You want to believe in these fucking institutions? You're telling me I gotta believe in these institutions, you fucking liberal asshole? These are your fucking liberal institutions. You want to fucking you want to erase them and not count what they do? No, die on the fucking hill, go fight for your institutions, you fucking worthless piece of shit. What fucking use are you? You know what I mean? We got to be like a little bit, like a small amount of pushback, not as much as they deserve. Like, we can keep it respectful like I just did there. We don't have to, but like some pushback.
All right. And so with that, what you got for us, Jay?
Yo,
Look at that. Well, I'll introduce so this is the only picture of myself that I have from Birthright.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should start with a big heading of you, like you went on Birthright as
JFK went to Birthright
as an American, so indigenous to Israel.
Well, that's the thing, is like, I really it's more like a homecoming than anything else. Okay, so I'll do like the background here.
Yeah, let's go.
So I guess I'm gonna go like super far back. So I was raised as a secular Jew. My parents they're non-religious really, but I think the first time I remember this very clearly. The first time I was ever told about Israel, there was like a project in the first grade where you had to like go home and talk to your family and figure out all like the countries that you have like that you're from, like that you have ethnicity from, which retrospectively is pretty fucked up if you were like one of the black students like in my class, because like what are you supposed to do there? But anyway, I would like talk to my family. We're Slavic, so like a bunch of Slavic countries, and then my mom was like, you're also Jewish, so you have to put Israel on there. And I was like, what? And she's like, well, yeah, so like Israel is the home of the Jews. That's like the first time I heard it was when I was like 6 years old. So the Zionism and that I experienced was always very background noise. It was always like, your grandma is going to Jerusalem, or your aunt and your uncle went to Jerusalem, or something like that. And it was always, there was never, I would characterize it as like there's just never any like pushback. There was never an alternative
It's just the way it is.
point of view. Yes. And when I got to college, I had a friend who was a quarter Jewish, and he had gone on Birthright, and I was like, all right, tell me about it. And it was essentially like free trip. And it's like a big party, and I was like, I'm fucking stupid, like that sounds great, so I'm signing up for this. And the application was like crazy fast. I remember like I filled out everything, and maybe like 2 days later they're like, yep, you're going. Like, I don't even know how they confirmed my Judaism, to be honest with you. And so I went.
Does it even matter if you're Jewish? Like, like is that really a big part of it? Like, it's mostly just they want people to move there and be able bodies to serve in like the IDF for like to help them in the media, right?
On some level, like I think you could. I don't even know. I think you could lie. I think you could lie and do it. I have no idea, because I don't think that they
there's a YouTube video in that.
Pulled up my mom's like bat mitzvah. Like what? Like how? Where is that recorded somewhere?
I wonder if we could do that, like lying to go on Birthright, like just to see if we could just like get like some just generic like Christian European guy to go on Israeli Birthright. Sorry, that's like a fun. I
think we should try it, frankly.
Any YouTubers out there, terrible video idea for you.
I'm just imagining an entire army of them, just like completely overrunning the whole birthright system with just like random people who want to just, I don't know, just be a nuisance to Israeli society.
We just sent 800 like prank YouTuber Logan Paul ass motherfuckers from Ohio on Birthright
to their home.
If we have like, streamer ambassadors for the country, I Show Speed is who you send if you actually want to make a good impression.
Oh shit.
If we're sending Israel Kai Cenat.
Yeah, I think if we send anybody who is black or or any other like white POC,
they won't like that.
That they will check if you're really Jewish.
Oh, they absolutely will. Like they're very famously not into Ethiopian Jews at all, like even a little bit.
They have a sterilization program. Yep. They actually sterilize Mizrahi and Sephardic Jews.
Yes. Well, I know about the Ethiopian Jew sterilization, but the sort of, as my understanding is that like Mizrahi Jews are used as like a token to be like, look, we are indigenous. We belong to this land. Here are our people who we are the same as, but then they have like second class citizen status in the sense that like they are far too brown to hold, higher office or whatever the fuck. I didn't know that there was sterilization for them, but I wouldn't.
As far as I know, when I was reading into it, there is, but maybe it's slightly different. Like maybe it's just like, because like like this happens in the United States as well with like indigenous women. Like sometimes they'll go to the doctor, and it's not like a standard policy for a lot of people. It's just like you go to the doctor and you might get put on birth control without being told.
That's horrific.
Yeah, it's just like the individual doctors will do a racism, and I think that's basically what happens with Mizrahi Jews. So Sephardic, it's an institutional, like it's an intentional program, like it's on purpose. And with like I think with Mizrahi, it's just individual doctors and like a tendency for it to happen more so than like an actual top down policy. But yeah, I might be wrong on that. If somebody can update on the comments, that is the one that we're saying like there is still sterilization of some people non-consensually in the space. Exactly who falls under it is what we're talking about, but the general fact is yes, some people are sterilized against their will in Israel, which is what.
If you remind me, like we could talk, like if you remind me, there's some weird eugenic shit that like like it's definitely like later on. If you remind me, like, hey, JFK, what about that eugenics thing? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Sounds great.
at this point in my life, this
reminding you
was
sounds
like
great.
20, I think it was 2017. So I would have been like 19 or 20 or something like that. At this point, since I was raised secular, my parents never, made me go to synagogue, never made me do anything that I didn't really like want to do. And at this point, I was like on a sort of a mission of self-discovery, because Judaism for me was based pretty exclusively in like trauma and bullying. Like it was always something that was put on me growing up. Like people would I've heard every single anti-Semitic thing you could ever fucking imagine at way too young of an age. You know what I mean? So it was always something like I resisted. I'm like, I'm not Jewish. Like I don't practice. I don't do anything. Like, how can you be ethnically, like racially Jewish? It was always something like, I am not Jewish. I would always say that, like, just to avoid getting bullied straight up.
Can I run this by you? So I've had mixed. So I've talked to more than one. Like you're not the only Jewish person I ever spoke to about this, but I'm curious because I've seen people have different views on it, and I guess I don't know what way people land on it. So this is a bit of a big topic. If it's too big, that's fine.
Yeah.
Do you go in on the Jewishness is an ethno-religion? Do you believe it's an ethnicity and a religion, or no, it's a religion and a cultural group, or like where do you sit on the whole thing? Because like I've seen some people say like, oh no, like being Jewish is not an ethnicity. There's no, like then other people are like it is, and it seems to be like a contested term now of what exactly is and isn't Jewish.
The thing is it very much follows like the one drop rule that we have, in the West, is like, if you have one drop of Jewish blood, you are not, pure. You are Jewish. You know what I mean? Like even people who convert to like Christianity, they're still Jewish. Even people, you know what I mean? So like, it follows that sort of racial distinction that we have in the West. But at the same time, I'm white. I'm white as they come. I'm whiter than fucking ranch dressing, straight up. So I think reject that it's like an ethnicity, but I've accepted at this point that, if a Nazi knocks on my door, they're not going to really care about like how often I've gone to temple. You know what I mean?
You're white until you're white until a certain type of racist meets you, and then you've never been further from white.
Right.
Yeah. Like it's the same thing with like being Irish. Like people will think like, oh, you're Irish though. Like I guess I was trying to explain this the other day on Twitch a little bit because some people kind of were a bit confused with. So for anyone who doesn't know, I'll get off this real quick because it's a total side topic. But Makara, who we just talked about, the United Kingdom thinks that he's a terrorist because of having a Hezbollah flag when he was speaking for Palestinian rights. People are saying he should just eat the charge and go to jail. He's a white guy. He'll be fine. Yeah.
Oh God.
No, he's a minority language user in occupied country. He is the occupied people of a country. No, like there is guys who go to protests today. They go to protest like still now, who are former Shankill butchers. Now to give you a rundown on who the Shankill butchers are, they were a knife gang who would run around and they would abduct people, bring them to a secondary location, and the reason they were called butchers is because they actually had a career butcher on the gang staff who would bring his machetes and he would slowly butcher people alive with his cleavers.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and that that guy, those guys are out. They're legal citizens now. Like they go to protests. People like buy them drinks and like celebrate them for like what they did.
Jesus Christ.
So like. When I'm saying like no, in certain parts of Ireland, like being Catholic is like no, it's still kind of contentious and bad. Yeah, Protestants are getting better. Like a lot of Protestants are like pretty progressive now and are coming around on United Ireland. And any future United Ireland will require collaboration and working with the Protestant community. Like so, any Irish like Republican who's like super like no fuck English people and fuck Protestants, they're lost in the sauce. They're nearly like as gone as the other side. Not as gone because obviously oppressor is still worse, But The point of the matter is, yeah, if you go to like an Orange Order march, or you like, go to anywhere where like those guys rule, like, yeah, you're gonna get fucked up. And like, it's still not just quite as frivolous as, oh, just go to jail, like everything will be fine. It's like, we're talking about a movement that people who sit in Masonic lodges getting off on having killed a Catholic 600 years ago, like bloodlines that won historic battles against Catholics being held in points of honor. You know what I mean? Like, these are lost in the sauce, magical fucking people. You know, like, so yeah. Again, Irish about as white as it comes until suddenly they're just not. You know,
Spicy white. It makes
Yeah.
sense.
yes. I obviously not the Irish. Probably not. Not as oppressed as like Jewish people historically. Like in Ireland, like 700 years of like
I would
occupation by.
The struggle
British
I would
children.
say is quite comparable, just in the sense of like I don't know, exactly as you're describing, white but not quite pure.
Yeah, we just don't meet all their little definitions. Like, for instance, like a lot of Irish Catholic are actually like legally not allowed to sit on the throne of England.
That's wild.
Yeah. So like, if I was to marry, if I was to marry into the royal family and all of that, I can't actually become aristocracy. Neither can my kids. Catholic doesn't wash off is kind of the policy.
But that's exactly what I guess I'm speaking to.
Mhm.
And frankly, it's exactly what the state of Israel like relies on and preys upon, is like this very strange gray area that, at least Ashkenazi, like white Jewish people occupy.
Yeah.
So, I guess like my goal is to, because I went to Birthright. I would have considered myself to be very enlightened, very asking a lot of questions. Like, I was aware of Palestinians. I was aware of some of the history, of a false history, but I would have considered myself very open-minded and immune to propaganda.
Liberal
So
Zionist.
Exactly. And that's my goal, is to explain, because I think it is not really well understood. And I get a lot of questions about this. Like, I wouldn't have even considered myself a Zionist, but I very much was. And I like the specific things that I saw, that they showed me, and that we did, and how that kind of like plays, I guess, like the psychology of liberal Zionism.
All right, so next slide.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so your recovery is not even from like the most, like, you're not even from like the most like extreme, like what people usually think. You're from like what people would think is like the good version of Zionism, and you're saying no, that's also fucked.
I would say, like, here's my take.
People usually
I would
hold
say
up liberal Zionism as like the better, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying it is, but that's what they usually, they're like, oh no,
I would
like,
I would say it's worse. I would say it's worse in the same way that, like, well, how about more insidious is what I would say.
yeah, because it gets away with manipulating people.
Exactly. And it very much, right, it's the same way that like leftists often say it is easier to talk to right wingers than it is to talk to liberals. I would say that applies as well, like, to Zionists, is that at least the people who are like mask off genocidal freaks, they're not trying to convince you that they're, on your team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, liberal Zionism is this pure cognitive dissonance where you think that you're upholding these progressive values, but the contradictions are very clear. Like, I guess once you're on the outside, you know what I mean?
Yeah, imagine. Yeah, like once once you start tripping over something and start realizing how your identity has been like stolen from you, commodified and sold back. Like, for anybody who so I recently made a video about the danger of Conor McGregor and men like him to Ireland, and them taking our history and selling it to white supremacy to basically to do its PR in its ongoing expansionist projects. Yeah. How that's a bad thing. And I think, like, when I was making it, I decided it wouldn't be my place to talk about it, and I stayed away from it specifically because of anti-Semitism. I'll be honest, because of I was relating Conor McGregor to Remick from the movie Sinners, which I won't spoil because people probably haven't watched it. but a little bit that movie's about vampirism, and I was like, I don't want to mix talking about Jewishness and vampires. You know, I made a taste choice there. You know what I mean? But as a conversation here, I will say, consuming a culture and turning it into a PR campaign for white supremacy and using it to do like genocides and war crimes and so on, and using it to like spread racism. Irishness is used to push back on the chattel slavery. Jewishness is now used to create the consent, the manufacture consent for a war in the Middle East, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I would say that, like, what I wanted to hit on was that, you know, it's not just Irishness that's used in this way. It's not just our identity that's commodified and sold back to us as a way to do horrible things in our name. Like, you know, like it also happens to Jewish people. It happens to Jewish people a lot more because of the power of Israel. But yeah, I deliberately left that out of the video, as I said, because of the risk of like blood libel, you know, like type of posting. The thing I would never want to do invite in the comment section.
You should do it and then just have like a big seal that like appears on like this, like JFK known Jew approves, and then you'll be safe and you can make your video.
No, that's it. No, I've already made the video. It's already made. It's on my YouTube. But like, I mean, people could go follow you on Twitch if you ever want to react to it. Maybe you know, they could maybe you could add if you connect with it, if I'm saying things that resonate with you, you know, or any other Jewish creators want to, because that's like I wanted to make it as like that kind of thing of like, you know, because I'm this is an offer we all get, you know. I felt that the Sinners was about, but I'll leave that there.
I like both of your content. Both of you guys make excellent YouTube videos, and it is inspiring me to try to go ahead, and that is a form of content creation that I've never tried. So I'm gonna roll the dice on it.
Hell yeah.
I mean, if you need any help, I'm sure like both of us will be willing to help, you know, if we have any way to.
I will absolutely take you up on that, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Neither do I. You just kind of wing it in the direction of trying. By the way, I am noticing this map here of Israel in this photo does not contain the West Bank. Those specifically contain Gaza. This is alarming. This is very interesting.
Yeah,
Also,
wait.
Also, wait. Why does it just keep going into Lebanon?
Yeah.
Well, there is. Listen, I mean, have you heard of Greater Israel, brother?
This is kind of the most sus map I've ever seen. Israel, land of 1,000 maps. None of them accurate. Oh wait, no, wait, sorry. I have to clarify. Wait, hold on. I have to clarify, because there's a famous meme people will say of they'll show registered sex offenders in Israel, and they'll just show like a map of it littered. When I was saying map, I mean geographic map, not minor attracted person, the Twitter term for pedophile. Oh. I say 1,000 maps. Just to clarify what I mean. There we go.
Noted.
No, let me behave.
Yeah. So this is the first day. This is the map that they gave all of us as sort of like a keepsake. Oh
my god.
You know, I went through a very angsty sort of initial deprogramming. So that shit, I like actually like ripped it up, but I did have it, and they gave us like little stickers to put on the map, like where we had been, to remember like the aspects of the trip. So we all got one of these, and you're correct in noticing that there is no West Bank line. And that ties into like a larger aspect of that I specifically wanted to talk about, like with this photo, is the way that they, and I'll talk about it more, the way that they described the UN recognized Israel within specific confines, then the occupied territory is like beyond, it's all occupied, frankly, but the West Bank in the east and the Golan Heights in the north, and then you can see Gaza in the west. So they specifically on the trip took us to the Golan Heights and the West Bank as very much like a power play to show, we have total jurisdiction over this area, trying to frame it as more of like a political sort of disagreement. Like, I don't know how to say, like,
Yeah, real
a
quick.
semantics disagreement than anything else. Yeah.
Just an addition for anybody listening audio only. Yeah, this map, not only, just continues on into Lebanon, it also just includes the Golan Heights.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just basically like we own everything. Like it's pretty rough. Although it does have Gaza. So
It does. But here's the thing is like
Mm-hmm.
the way that they talk about Gaza is very different, very, very, very different from the way that they talk about East Jerusalem, the West Bank, Golan Heights. It is like this. I don't even know how to describe it to you, but it's
I would
sort of
imagine
like
they
the
talk
south
about a
side of
similar.
Chicago. You know what I mean? Is
I would
like
imagine
if
they
you
talk
ever
about
roll
similar
up
to Mordor. Like it's just this
Oh yes, actually
dangerous
yes.
place you shouldn't go, basically.
Yes. I mean, like my example, that's actually probably a better example. But my example was going to be like, if you ever talk to someone who knows absolutely fucking nothing about Chicago and you're like, oh, Chicago's awesome, but we don't talk about the South Side. Like that's just scary and dangerous. And like, right, there's a whole lot of racism packed into that. But that is the same way that they talk about Gaza is like, yes, there it is. And it's complicated and it's very scary. And that is why we just don't talk about it. So it's you're right. Like the propaganda here is, or the brainwashing, but both, right, is very subtle in, well, maybe it's not subtle, but to me, at that age, at that point in my life, it passed the smell test for me. And maybe I think it's easy to say like, how did you not? But it was they come at it at this place from like open to conversation. So that's our guide right there. And he definitely, like, if you want to talk about a cult, which it very much is, he served like this paternal role in the group. And he even like took us, his family lives in the West Bank. He took us to meet his wife and his kids. So we were in the West Bank as well, like specifically in his hometown. And like, he was always open to these kinds of conversations where if I ever had a question, if something made me uncomfortable, I would always like come to him and we would talk about it. But he would talk about it in a way
Youth
that
pastor.
Yes, literally yes, like backwards chair, fucking, the whole 9 yards. And
so for context,
yeah.
just in case anybody's listening to this and they don't know, right? Because maybe we should have done this at the top. I'm just kind of imagining everybody doesn't know, but like saying he lives in the West Bank, he's not supposed to live in the West Bank.
No,
Yes, exactly.
he lived in one of the acknowledged, I don't know what you would say, not
illegal
legal, but
settlements.
one of the ones that's like on the map, right? That Israel administers. It's not, it's a recognized settlement. There's different, the West Bank is sort of split up into 3 different jurisdictions. They're lettered, I believe. And one of them is just Israel, quote unquote, proper. One of them is like shared between Palestinians and the Israel. Oh, right. All of this is with asterisks around it, right? Shared between the Palestinians and the Israelis, and one is just the Palestinians. So he belongs to one of the settlements that is in area A, or I don't actually remember which letter is which, but
So he's not the most illegal of the illegal, but he definitely is one of the people who's probably like taking reports from people who are in the super contentious places and then
100%,
helping the IDF get in and give them weapons. Because remember, Israel arms the ones in the illegal. So it's like there's no way to live in the West Bank. Anyone who lives there is part of the violent occupation. Like that is inherent. Like that is straight up that like you are a facilitator of that. So I'd imagine that this guy, I mean, obviously everyone has, but I imagine probably more enthusiastically, probably has served in the IDF, probably did pretty well at some parts of it, and this is probably part of their continued service to Israel. Like this is as you said, cult. This is like a true believer, probably. Like they're completely lost in the sauce, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yes. You know, there was later. Well, how about this? Later on in the trip, we were like having fun, and he was like showing us his dance moves, and his pistol fell out of his pocket and hit the ground. Like that's, you know, he's packing. He's you know, but right, the exactly as you said with like youth pastor, approachable, kind,
Militarized youth pastor,
paternal, you know, would never sort of like critique my questioning. He would even like applaud me for it. You know what I mean? Like sort of verbally reward me for my curiosity.
That was something I remember when I seen a video of so there was two people went on Birthright. I'm sure you've probably seen this video, but they went on Birthright and they got kicked off the bus because they started asking questions and demanding to like see certain things and all this type of thing. They made a ruckus. And I remember everyone in the comments who basically similar to yourself were like deconstructed like ex-Zionists were being like, that's actually like whoever was running this trip was clearly an amateur, because they're actually really good at the escalation and making you feel like you're very smart. And actually, no, of course. But like there's, you know, like you're one of the people who sees it, so you get it. Like, yeah, okay, so we're not showing you everything. Very well done. But we can't show everyone everything. You're one of the clever ones. Let me explain. Let me take a bit more care with you. Let me like, and you know, a bit of glazing, a bit of feeding your ego. Ultimately getting you to fall for it. Like, and people were like, no, they'll massage it for you, you know? Like, so them just kicking them off the bus was just complete delusion posting to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Like the person who was running that was definitely not as well trained. What are you doing, Jelly?
I'm just listen, making this orders are a scar upon the earth, Jelly.
I'm just making this clear for anybody. Yeah, for anybody who may be visually impaired.
That's reasonable. You know what? That's very conscientious and kind of you, and all of those things. Yeah, this goes right up into like, does that actually consume some Syrian territory too? I don't know the lines of the maps
it does.
too well. I think it does. Oh my god.
The Golan Heights is legally Syria.
No, but I mean when I say that, yeah, but I mean Golan Heights has kind of already in some way been ceded. Like, I mean, like more Syrian territory.
Oh yeah, I believe
it definitely looks like it just keeps going.
Yeah, this map is a declaration of war against 3 countries. Like,
I mean, brother, have you heard of Greater Israel? I'm Israel High.
I have. It's the worst. That's why I've been saying, okay, this is like slightly, you know, this is kind of an aside, but with the bombing of Iran, which we did start off the stream talking about a little bit, I did worry that if Iran falls, that is the last major check and balance on Israel in the region, preventing them from becoming a new America. So if you think of America as an expansionist project in North America, where there didn't used to be white people, and now it's a European colony, I do wonder if the goal is to future have a white Middle East led by Israel, you know, paving the way. Because it's slowly but surely Israel's becoming more palatable to American companies and American people, and like over, you know, like it's not going to remain. At the rate they want to expand it, it's not going to remain mostly Jewish. It's going to, you know, start becoming seeded with more people who just want to go there for military jobs or, you know, tech jobs or, you know.
Well, so that's like I think it's the next, we could say on this slide, but it'll kind of transition into the next part of this is the mythology that they sell you is that this is like the oasis in the desert. Like this is the, you know, the bastion of civilization over here. And they'll even give like, you know, this is the Silicon Valley of the Middle East. Like we have so many tech advancements over here and so many, like a rich sort of, intellectual creative space. Like if you want to do an app, like start an app or a company, you should come here to do it.
Are you familiar with an old program? It was a browser plugin called StumbleUpon.
No.
Yes, I do.
Right. StumbleUpon was just you had a button that was StumbleUpon, and it would let you stumble upon a new website. And you just click it, and it would just grab a website off the internet at random that had been added to a curated list of good websites by other users of StumbleUpon. So it was like a community curated like million websites that were all actually just really good. You just randomly go through them, yeah. So anyway, I was using it one day and I came across a YouTube video someone had added. I was like, oh, okay. I was watching it, and I actually got that piece of propaganda you were talking about. They were like, imagine a place completely barren and devoid of culture, people, or like vegetation, just a wasteland of nothing in it. And then imagine some people who industriously went there and like, you know, tilled the ground, brought in water, built cities and civilization. And then imagine people coming and demanding that wasteland back. And it's like, that's Israel. I'm like, oh my God. Like, and obviously at that point, like, you know, yeah. But that's the self-image. The self-image is that they're building a country and everyone just wants to tear it down. Like, that's why, like, you know, without getting too into talking about certain people, but one of the clients posted recently, they bomb, we rebuild. That's why we win.
Yeah.
Like, it's this image of, like, they are building civilization. Like, this is the self-image of the project. They are built, like, it's that Ben Shapiro in year 2012 said, Israelis like to build, Arabs like to bomb shit and live in sewage.
Oh my God.
Settlements rock.
Jesus Christ.
Have you ever seen that tweet?
I have not. No. What a Nazi fucking
Yeah,
freak.
he still has that up. I had someone come into my chat the other day who was like, they're like, I'm not a Zionist, but I'm a Ben Shapiro fan. I ran that quote by them and they're like, but is he wrong? And I'm like, yeah, and then banned them, you know? I was like,
oh God.
I'm like, oh, so if you're not a Zionist but you agree with that sentiment, then you're like in some form of esoteric racist.
Oh, but do you want to slip to the
next slide?
Forget which slide is next. Okay, yeah. So this is about like tilling the soil and like making the desert bloom.
Yeah.
So this is, yeah. This is in the Golan Heights. So they took us to the quote unquote Syrian border. There's like this bluff that we hiked up to. So we like looked down and there were 2 UN peacekeepers like with binoculars like staring across the border. And we talked to them and like, what are you doing here? What's your job? And they're like, well, we just wait to if something happens. And I'm like, what do you do if something happens? And they're like, well, we're not supposed to engage. We're just here to like observe. So that is kind of when our guide sort of, you know, butt in and said, you know, look across, you know, where the green stops. That's where Syria starts. The insinuation being like Syria doesn't take care of their land, and like the Jews are able to, you know, grow. So these are grapes for a winery that we also went to, by the way. Like we are able to make the desert bloom and flourish, and that is like this sort of mythos, like this magical touch that the Jews have.
Can I give you a so I'm sure that's because they're quote unquote indigenous, but
right.
Are you familiar with the term green colonialism?
I'm not.
So basically Israel has had some of the worst wildfires that region has ever seen, specifically because of their efforts to do exactly what's in this picture. The reason the Arabs didn't do this is because this isn't good. American lawn culture, European plants, all of this, this isn't Europe. I hate to, you know, I hate to. Israel is not in Europe, and so this is actually caused by non-native. Yeah, by non. I tell you, UEFA that too. UEFA is the football. By them destroying indigenous plants and bringing in these invasive plants from Europe, these non-native trees and such, it's actually causing wildfires because these plants are getting too dry in certain periods. They're like they're not like breaking down with the like natural, like there's no ecosystem here. Different trees have different, like, you know, like obviously we all know mushrooms grow on certain trees and, you know, fruit on others and animals and bugs. Like every forest has like a natural ecosystem to help its natural processes. Importing a whole forest like this and trying to make Tel Aviv look like a forest from Europe is not a good idea. It's a dry country. The desert isn't meant to bloom. It can irrigate it, and over time you can change the albedo be the term for like the reflectivity of the soil, and then change some of the heat pattern and the wind patterns through that, and then over time like there is efforts to do this, but they're not doing that. This is happening way too quick. They've only been there like 70 years. This is not a long-term program. They haven't even been in Golden Heights that long. So this is ridiculous.
It's
It's causing
also,
forest fires.
it's also very infamously, they are burning down, like destroying olive groves.
Yeah.
And olive trees, they bloom and then you harvest the olives, and like it's the same plant for like hundreds of years. So these are like ancient fucking farms that the Israelis are destroying, you know. So even their mythos is false. Like they are not these like green thumbed ordained cultivists. Like they are destroyers. To sort of like speak to this, like the point that I wanted to make here is like this mythology that was sold to us, and not like directly, it was all implied just by them taking us to these specific places and showing us specific things, is to imply a mythology about perseverance, right? So like the analogy would be like we the Jews, like exactly like you were saying with the Klein tweet, right? Like we the Jews, we are these like perpetual victims, but at the same time we overcome and we persevere, much like these, you know, these grapes, you know, we are in the face of like oppressiveness, we persevere and we thrive. So it like they tied us metaphorically to the desert, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's like they're trying to say like this like taste of home that like, you're used to, this European ass like looking greenery is basically like this because we're meant to be here. And look how it looks over there. That's different. That's bad.
Truly. I just remember like what was the actual thing that my guide said? I forget exactly what, but it was like where life stops is where Syria starts, was essentially what he said. So it's also like a dig at the true indigenous people. Like they are bad custodians. They don't even respect the land enough to make it green.
Dear Lord.
So, but all of this, right, very subtextual, I suppose, because the whole vibe of this is like a summer camp, Bible camp, tourist group type thing.
And I guess like I think people probably would at this point they'd be very interested in if they know anybody who's still in this cult. Like I'm probably gonna get to that later, but I'm curious just what pulled you out of this? Like when you've seen all of this, why didn't it stick?
That's a good question. I think that
is it because you didn't meet somebody on Birthright? I have heard that is part of it. Like they try and get you into a relationship with somebody who is invested in the Israeli project as well, and then that way, if one of you has doubts, the other one comforts the other one through it. You know,
honey trapping.
You become each other's handlers.
Yeah, so there's the slide about like us partying is where I like wanted to talk about like the honeypot aspect of it.
Okay,
which is like it was very present, but the reason why I think I didn't like seeing this stuff didn't like make me question was how effective I suppose like the previous part where the guide sort of applauded my curiosity, and that sort of scratched like the itch of like something's off here. And also at the same time, right, I was the only Jew like growing up in my neighborhood. Like I guess there was like 2 other families, but for the first time in my entire life I was surrounded completely by people quote unquote like me. So there was like this profound sense of not belonging to like the place, but like here are young Jews, which I'd never experienced ever. So I think I probably ignored things for the positive perceived aspects that made me feel comforted.
Okay.
You want to go to the next slide?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
So this is the same. This is still in the Golan Heights, and I wanted to like show you because this is a huge part of the again like the mythology and the propaganda is showing us ruins, like all kinds of ancient sites, ancient artifacts. They'd show us fucking like old pottery and old coins and be like, you know, see, there is the effort here is to be like
Construction of a
this
mythic past.
exactly, like this is your home because here's your artifacts, these are yours. And like calling attention to like the destruction of it as well was part of it. Like they would take us, I don't know if you know like about Masada, which you know about, like that's an important sort of propaganda mythos.
No, I maybe once you start talking about it, maybe it'll come to mind, but right now, no.
Masada was like this fort on top of a plateau where it was, I don't know like the exact history about this, which just goes to show you like it, you know, the exactness isn't important. It's like how it's supposed to make you feel. And it was these Israelites who were surrounded by, I believe, Romans and sieged, and they knew that they were gonna like get conquered, they were gonna get taken over, so they did a mass suicide. And it's like this, it's supposed to like tug on your heartstrings and make you feel, you know, like this perpetual victimhood. And again, they would point to like there's like ruins out there, there's artifacts. It's supposed to be like this very you know, powerful experience. And they even like on top of Masada, our guide had us like scream down, because part of the mythology was that every day the Israelites would say Am Israel High, which means Israel is still here, and shouted at the Romans as like defiance. So he had us do that as well, right? So there's like these ways of like slow indoctrination that to me at the time was like a powerful experience to, you know, to finally embrace a part of my identity that I always had like quite a bit of shame for. It was now like replaced with something I could be proud of. Like we persevered, and I'm strong, and I'm still here, right?
This is something I kind of touched on in my most recent video, like so, like you know, again, touched on for like I guess just like oppressed people, not you know, I was saying how because of the way the Irish Revolution was co-opted and taken away from the liberation of the Irish people and taken away from anti-imperialism and redirected into Catholic rights, which was a much smaller victory than like you know liberating the people from colonialism. Yeah. Meant that when I was in the 90s, only fucking 60 years after the creation of the state, you know, becoming an atheist, it didn't really feel counterculture to be an atheist. It felt counter-revolutionary. It felt like a little bit like I'm against. It also felt meaningless because Ireland had just moved on. So it was like, in a very similar way to you saying you weren't even like religious, yeah, here you were on birthright. Like I never felt particularly Catholic, but I still felt kind of just anti-Irish to just be like, you know, like a little 8-year-old me being like, I don't know if I believe all of this Catholic stuff. Yeah. But like I was always a Republican. I was always like an Irish, like you know, left wing, but Irish nationalist, and like you know, I was like, people fought and died for my right to be Catholic, and I'm taking the option to not be. But like, so a big part of my recovery into like figuring out like my relationship being Irish was figuring out like what it actually means to be like you know anti-imperialist, what it actually means to be like you know like post-colonial, like what actually is happening in this culture. And I feel like you're kind of batting your head against a similar thing where they've tried to construct a relationship with your own identity for you.
Yes.
And they're telling you how you're supposed to feel about all these words that have been attached to you rather than you having your own relationship with identity.
Yeah. I think like there wasn't I was like a perfect clean slate for them to just kind of present me, like as you say, with an identity that was very palatable, because it stood in opposition to what I had, like, experienced growing up. And yeah, I think I was ripe for, again, right, I would have questioned everything and thought I was very enlightened, but you know, taking on this.
I do also wonder, this is an unknowable question, and like, I'm sorry, like this is going to come across as asking you to answer it, but like, if you can't, there's no way to, that's
Sure.
fine. I do wonder if Israel and its marketing is more effective in colonizer countries like the United States, France, so on, where, oh, you thought you were just another white guy and part of the problem of like oppression in these like awful countries. No, you're actually like persecuted, and also we have like a way to make you feel important and give you a culture, because America doesn't really have its own culture because of the consequences of being a colonizer. And so like, we've kind of created a remedy for this weird cultural ennui that you feel as just a white guy in America. We can make you not a white guy. Huh?
No, straight up, it was very much like fucking Zionist Hagrid saying, "You're a wizard, Harry." Like, I was like, oh my god, I'm special, and I always knew it. And
you're a minority, Harry. Here you go. Here's your slurs. If someone says these to you, you have permission to join the IDF and hunt them down.
Like, yes, I think yes, because the this is very like topical, right? Is because we are now experiencing what is happening in Gaza and the Zionist project in general is the outcome of the West not coming to terms with its anti-Semitism and obfuscating it to a group of people that had nothing to do with the Holocaust whatsoever. And the diaspora very much, not every single element of the diaspora, but most of them just want to assimilate, become Americans or Europeans or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And the culture of the West, I guess the culture of the United States, is that like, we don't have a culture, we don't have an identity. That is all supplied to us by like black and brown people. So like, what do you belong to? People will point to like their European roots, but what the fuck am I supposed to point to? That again, like an absolute clean slate, ready to just eat whatever the fuck makes me feel like happy and accepted.
Yeah. And so like, I was thinking, and I did kind of talk about this a little bit on stream before we did this. I was thinking of like what would be the kind of the angle for us here, and Esotechnic talking about this, like what's our kind of, because we tend to talk about like inventions, like one of our episodes is about wooden clothing, for instance. People used to wear wooden bathing suits.
Classic.
That's hot.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that regard, I guess I'm viewing this as like the invention of a nation, the invention of a culture, the invention of a myth. Would you agree with that kind of framing, that like Israel had to completely like build itself like from the top up, like including things from bottom up? I mean, because like they like even things like erasure of Yiddish and the reconstruction of Hebrew as a replacement. Like it's like, no, Yiddish wasn't good enough. We need an Israeli language.
Yeah, there's a whole tragedy there as well, right? Because my grandparents were not fluent. They could speak Yiddish. My grandmother certainly could. I don't know her level of proficiency, but yeah, there's a profound tragedy there in that like Yiddish, it's Germanic, so with the Israel decided they're going to use the Hebrew, and there's again, that's part of the mythology as well, because they revitalized an extinct language that like no one spoke. So again, that like plays into this false identity that was created, right? In much the same way that like, I don't know, American identity is created around revolution and I don't know what else, like freedoms and liberties, brother. Like this is a culture that was manufactured as like we are, we persevere. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, and like, Yiddish was like, well, okay, so I'm trying to kind of how to word this in a way that makes sense. So Jewish people, obviously, in the United States, have been hugely influential in culture. They've been huge contributors to like comedy and the arts. I think everybody's got like, if you're not like racist, you've got an appreciation for like, for the community. Yeah. And because of that, Yiddish has like slipped into just like everybody knows at least one Yiddish word, even if they don't know it's Yiddish.
What's your
like
favorite
words,
Yiddish word?
bupkis.
That's a good one.
I'd
Yeah,
say
or chutzpah.
schmutz. Oh, chutzpah,
Schmutz,
yeah.
Schmutz, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, and the most famous one's probably dreidel, right?
Yeah, it's like, so right for schmutz, that's like perfect to show you that it's Germanic, because schmutzig in German is like, it means dirty. If you got some schmutz, like that is right.
Oh, and then there's also
And
schlong.
schlong
yeah.
is also right.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So everybody, whoever's like, oh, making like schlong dong jokes or whatever, yeah, no, you better you better show some respect to Yiddish. It's a shame it's being taken away. It's such it's a language of such fun sounds. I used to always wonder if I was this is like, I guess, just me being like a cute child and being worried about being anti-Semitic. I did you know, either of you know Noah's Island? Just real quick.
No.
Noah's Island is basically Noah's Ark, except it's about an island where they've hijacked a volcano to turn it into a propulsion system, and they sail the island around. And
shit.
Noah is a polar bear, and he's just collecting animals from all over the world. And at one point, he collects a random Russian mole, and the mole's catchphrase is just "Oishki Poishki." And child me loved Oishki Poishki, but I didn't know if it was like, I wouldn't have known the word Yiddish, but I didn't know if it was one of those like older cultural languages that you're not supposed to just meme, and whether it was problematic. I was like, that's something I can just say because I really like it. But now, like, obviously, like, child me was thinking like, I can translate for him. He was thinking like, is this Yiddish? Am I being insensitive just going around saying Oishki Poishki? Child me used to love it.
I'm just offended by your inflection, frankly. So
My inflection, which inflection?
yeah, for oishki poi, that is like, I don't know. That's anti-Semitic, is how I feel.
Yeah, no, I'm doing a Russian Oishki Poishki. Is this somehow decent? Also, Russian mole, by the way, Red Scare. That one probably missed you.
Oh,
Yeah.
But yeah. Even beloved childhood characters still kind of a little bit like, oh wait, I guess.
So speaking of foreign
in there.
moles, when are we gonna get to these honeypots, baby?
Is this the
I
next
think it's
image?
the next one, isn't it?
Let's have a look.
Yeah,
Oh shit.
Chatties, baby. So I had a lot of photos and videos of my friends. They don't talk to me anymore. Former friends, just getting belligerently
Because I assume
drunk, and that was
they're still
a
Zionist.
huge, yeah, all of them. This was a huge part of Birthright. Was like, I remember thinking this too, because our guide, he didn't endorse it. He never said anything about it. It was just, we knew that we were just gonna go get fucked up. So there's like a ton of videos and photos that I have of us partying, and that it was like a huge part of this is, it's supposed to be like, you're supposed to hook up with your hot Israeli soldiers. You're supposed to hook up, like, all of us. This is another part of this that I found to be very retrospectively creepy as fuck. I don't know if it was something on the application, but we're all secular, so none of us were like super religious, so they definitely did that on intentionally. We were all single, so they definitely did that intentionally as well. And yeah, so we would, I believe this was in I think it's Haifa. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, like
And
I mean, it's been confirmed that like it is part of the process. Is like to the best of my understanding. Like I've seen videos that have said it. Like, oh, like we know that part of the program of going on birthright is that they want to pair insecure young men who they've now given a huge boost of confidence to, because like they basically, they spend a lot of time trying to build you up and give you an identity and like, pump you up, and then they put you around young eligible women. Here you go.
Then they give you a Israeli IDF girl boss.
But I know
yes,
there's even like if I remember correctly, I believe there's even an age disparity. Like it tends to be like 22-year-old guys and like 18-year-old girls. So like the fact that you have a driver's license, that is like still kind of like even more pulling.
Gross.
Like they're literally setting it up for like nightmare fuel, kind of like like that.
oh
Like
God, we were all the same age.
that's good for you at least.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
That
see,
doesn't surprise me though.
one person I was watching, they were literally like, yeah, when they went on birthright, literally every guy was like early 20s, like no one over 25, but they were specifically matched up with like 18, 19-year-old, like there was like they were trying to like stress that like you're in college, she's just out of high school, like like you're gonna seem so interesting by comparison.
No, this was
Which by the way, when I
fucking-
say those words, that's the like, you were talking about your youth pastor kind of coded guy.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
that's like the tour guide telling them like, oh no, when we go and hang out with the girls tomorrow, like you're gonna seem so interesting, like because you're older.
Yeah. I mean, so here's like the clearest aspect. Like, so on the trip, we also had a bodyguard who was packing like major heat, like not just a handgun, but like
Oh God,
I don't know shit about guns. Like a big
Me
one.
neither.
I don't know.
I'm European.
Like what is
I'm not allowed to
yeah,
know things about guns.
a big scary one. And her name was Esty, and she was she was really, really hot. I mean, like, and I think like intentionally so. I think she was hand selected to be very hot and hold a very large gun. And everyone loved Esty.
Have you ever been to a Brazilian steakhouse?
I've not.
Because it just reminds me of like the whole trope of like I've seen it a couple times where, if you're not anybody who's not familiar with the Brazilian steakhouse like method of service, basically you pay like a flat fee for entry, and then you get in, you sit down. There's like a sidebar. There's like antipasta and whatever, veggies and all that good stuff, and you make yourself a nice plate of that, and then you go sit and then you go sit at your table, and there'll just be a team of waiters just roving around carrying sticks of like sizzling hot meat fresh off the grill, and when you see one you want, you just like flag them down. And I've noticed a pattern of the dude who carries the sausage is the biggest giga chad in the wait staff.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't even know, like here's the thought that's forming. It's because I'm like thinking about how Celtic frame this as a cult, which I agree with. Yeah. It's like in like Charles Manson, right? For his cult, he had hot ladies, hot young women, bunch of drugs, and they'd party, and being like inebriated with like sex being the implication. That is like how he brainwashed people, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like drawing that like one-to-one comparison here. Like we were perpetually hungover in Israel, in fucking occupied land, like with hot ladies, the equivalent of the hottest like Brazilian barbecue sausage, man. Like that was part of the concoction. That was part of the formula.
It's like the Soviet soldier that moves to Cuba, tastes just a little bit of coconut, tastes some mango, meets a Cuban woman, and suddenly decides that I've never felt anything in this long existence of a life.
So like on the topic of it being a cult,
Yeah.
part of it having gone for like 70 years, and like before that, the origins of Zionism, which maybe is also worth talking about, the engineering of this ideology. Zionism is not a Jewish concept.
Mm-mm.
The first people to really popularize it in Europe were well, what would eventually become Nazis. They were precursors to the Nazis. Nazis didn't exist for quite some time. You figures who died about 60 years before the Holocaust, talking about wanting to expel Israelis, future Israelis, to Palestine, the Jewish people to Palestine. Like, that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to round them up and put them somewhere else, put them in their own state elsewhere. That is a anti-Semitic concept. People who got roped into believing that and endorsing it because it suited them or whatever they wanted have had a difficult job of trying to convince people of their own like displacement. Because if your whole family is rounded up from Germany or from America and then moved somewhere else, or forced to move somewhere else, like that's a huge shift for you. Like, why would you ever agree to that? You know? So there's this huge creation of like a cult of like belief in this and the importance of this. But ultimately, the entire Israeli project is rooted in a simple, you know, one untrue statement at the core, which is that so when I talk about people who like talked about it in the past, Thomas Carlyle was one of them. He said that the reason that Jewish people had to be put in their, at his words, their wretched Palestine, is because, again, in his words, no Jewish person could be truly a citizen of another state. And in some way, if you're a Zionist, you believe that.
Yeah, nowadays
you believe you're not going to be safe.
Yeah, we just have to take the dual loyalty trope and just like it now.
Mm-hmm. But nowadays, like if you're like a modern Zionist, you basically believe that ultimately, in any country you're in, your community's not your community. Nobody really likes you. Racism's always going to be there. You're just one bad, you know, event away from a pogrom, like, and that's why you need Israel. That's like,
Yeah,
good.
I think so. You know, since part of my deprogramming, I suppose, would be to learn where Zionism did come from. Do you have the Theodore Herzl? I thought I saw that when you were. Is that one of the slides that you have, Jelly?
I originally had it in there as a placeholder, to be honest.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter either. Like, we could talk about it right now because I think it's a good opportunity since we're on the topic, right? So Theodore Herzl he incepted what Zionism is, and he was very explicit that it was a colonial project.
Oh, and that they would fight
fucking
against
care where it was.
Yeah, and he was like, they would fight against it. Like, he expected, right?
Yeah, he said wherever it would end up being, you know, Israel, you know, or excuse me, like, Palestine was not the original, like, that wasn't what his goal specifically was. But when it ended up becoming Palestine, he was very clear that there would be opposition from the indigenous people to the colonization project. Like, he was very clear about all of this. Anyone who is like curious, there's so much of him saying all of this shit very unapologetically, and it, you know, tying it to the mythos that was created was not his intent. His intention was not to create this Israeli mythos about perseverance and like the chosen land and the chosen people. He was like very secular, non-religious. He looked at a bunch of different places for Israel to exist, including, I believe, Madagascar, the Guyanas, I think Alaska. Like, he had no like specific interest in the Middle East.
Before he finally settled on the true Zion of Boca Raton.
By the way, on Carlyle and his view that, like, so his exact words was, how could a Jew try to be a senator or even a citizen of any country except his own wretched Palestine, which he hopes they'll be returned to as soon as possible. And he said that in response to criticism because Baron Rothschild, which usually if anyone mentions that name, it's a red flag, but this is quite literally, you know, like, this is like the actual historical figure, not like a conspiracy theory, invited Carlyle to help support a bill in Parliament, UK Parliament, to give voting rights to Jewish people.
Yeah.
And Carlyle was offended and refused that invite, and then became a Zionist. like outspokenly saying, "No, wait, hold on, you can't be part of our society." And that's like one of the earliest, that's like one of the earliest like champions of Zionism that like a lot of people go on to reference when they're talking about like this. Like Hitler read Carlyle in his bunker before he killed himself.
Jesus.
That sounds
Yeah.
like the kind of sentence you'd say as a meme, but oh god, I know you're not lying.
Yeah, no, he was one of the people because Carlyle wrote the histories of like the Kaiser or Bismarck, one of those like kind of people. I don't think it was Bismarck. I think it was too early for that. But he wrote like a beloved series of school books that like Germans had before they went on and became the Nazis. So Hitler actually had some Carlyle books in his bunker. He was a fan of the Scottish writer.
Well,
So there you go. Yeah. Oh, and the bad Irishman, John Mitchell, who I referenced in my newest video about like McGregor. John Mitchell's an Irishman who went to America and joined the Confederacy and fought for slavery. He was also a huge
Dope.
Carlyle fan. Yeah, just one of these fan
what you're
favorites of the worst people you know.
So what you're saying is I should read Carlisle because all of the best people are fans.
Yeah. He was the Kanye of his day.
we got
Another thing I wanted to say.
Mhm.
Another thing that I wanted to say was, right, to just sort of reemphasize how artificial Zionism is when Theodor Herzl and his folks were, trying to pitch this, it was incredibly unpopular. Like,
Yeah.
the actual text, if you want to, I think that if you look towards biblical text, you're already sort of like fucking lost at that point. But
Yeah.
the point being, like, right, this is colonization, this is apartheid, this is genocide. We don't need to like read a little an old book to know that. But either way, if you look at the actual text, we're not supposed, the Jews are not supposed to return to the promised land until the Messiah comes. So
That's
this
what
was yeah.
Hasidic Jewish people you'll find they really religious
Correct,
ones
yeah.
that protest. They're always big on this, that it's a vulgar, like what Christians would call like blasphemous act, like it's sacrilegious to try and build the
Truly,
Jewish
yes.
land.
Yes.
God will give it to you, you are taking the role of God from him. That is a sin, like it is wrong.
That's why, like, I mean, sort of as an aside, I've always, I would walk, side by side with a Hasidic Jew who was protesting against Israel. But it's sort of I don't want to paint every single Hasidic Jew like this, but their advocacy is based on scripture, right? So if Jesus came tomorrow, some of them, not all of them, would be like, okay, yeah, now is the time to actually go get that land. So it's always been sort of a very weird, tenuous relationship that I personally, again, not all of them.
You're using
right?
one extremely religious group to fight another weaponized like cult.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah. It's like, so this is something I make a distinction on my stream. Maybe this would be helpful to anybody who's ever finds themselves in these waters, yeah. Since we talked about this earlier, the world is too big to know, and we talk about building rooms as one tool to get around that, yeah. Another thing I kind of build my my way of approaching things is I make what I call a necessary reductionism, where like, so reductionism is we already simplify a problem, yeah, but you have to simplify it to some part because you can't just include everything. Like if I want to talk to you about the rise of Mussolini and someone says, well, let's talk about 1840s like pasta, and then let's go back and actually talk about the introduction of the tomato to Italy. You might be going a little too far to talk about, like, if we're trying to talk about the introduction of the tomato to Italy to talk about Mussolini, you've gotten a little too esoteric. Like,
but you see, the pasta is what lost him the war.
Yeah.
But the point is, if you go that far back, you can kind of make any point you want because
Yeah.
effectively there's no way to really sort through all that information. So what you've done is you've gone far enough back to a lowest common denominator that like all the stories share, and then you've tried to like build a narrative back, right? And so like whenever I'm talking to people about Israel, I'll be honest, I'm ignorant as fuck on a lot of things there. Like, people say to me, "Oh, what about this bill in like the '60s where they tried this?" I don't know. Bombing kids is wrong. Do you think if I go and read about that, like, do you think if I go and read about that bill, that I'm going to come out and agree to bombing kids is wrong? You have my morals fucked up. No, there's no bill you could write that's gonna make me go, "Oh yeah, let's kill kids. Fuck it, that's awesome, sick." Fuck, hog, shit. I didn't know you wrote a bill. You know, so I make a necessary reductionism of it, given the fact that I'm watching a genocide. I don't give a fuck about history from 300 years ago, 400 years ago, 2,000 years ago. You know, I don't give a shit about. Well, you know, Netanyahu's brother died on it. I don't care. Sorry, what am I out here giving a shit about this? No, there's a genocide going on. So I literally just make that, like, it's a deliberate choice. It's kind of a, like, in my opinion, it's a smart use of anti-intellectualism of, like, you're overcomplicating this topic in the hope we'll get lost in the weeds and then no one will be able to tell who won this. Sorry, let's keep the focus on the focus. Bombing kids is wrong. Is that annoying? Yeah, probably. I imagine if I was trying to make people agree with bombing kids, that would be a very annoying tactic, because it's really hard for you to do that if I don't allow the topic to become a swamp. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Let me get this straight, Celtic. You think that bombing kids is wrong, and that is so brave of you.
Thank you.
Say, yeah.
Oh, it's easy. I'll take that stance all day. If someone asks me about some esoteric thing that makes that stance harder to take, it's like, I'm not taking a stance on that, and I don't have to. For me to say bombing a kid is wrong in 2025, I don't have to have any opinion on anything prior. Now, do I have opinions on things prior? Absolutely. Well, bringing that up is just, it's being done disingenuously to muddy the conversation, and that's where I am with religious scripture. By the way, that's why we're on this topic. If somebody comes to me and says, "But what about this piece of the Torah?" Sorry, killing kids is wrong.
I'll even go further and say, "Fuck the Torah." Fuck the Torah, fuck the Bible, fuck all that shit.
Don't care, didn't ask.
Well, I'm not going to even go anti-religious on it. Like, I'll use that even to defend Jewish people as well. Like, I'm not even, like, it's not even an anti-Semitic thing. Because, like, Nazis, some Dan Bilzerian guy shows up and says, "Well, look at this really problematic quote in the Torah." Okay, hey, Nazi boy, doing the Holocaust was bad. Don't do that. Don't harm Jewish people. I'll die on that hill too. Yeah, no one gets to do this. No one gets to overcomplicate shit with conspiracy theories and then go and hurt people. It's phenomenal. It's a great, I'm telling you, it's a powerful tool. Is someone doing evil? It doesn't matter what argument allows them to do evil. Simple. It's this is why I don't do metaphysics either in philosophy. Someone says to me, "But what is the nature of evil?" Suck a dick?
Is sucking a dick the nature of evil? Hell yeah.
No, I'm suggesting they suck a dick because it's a better use of their mouth. Yeah, asking me that shit. Asking me that shit is a waste of your time. Suck a dick instead. All right. So back to drinking in a murder cult.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say like one more thing, like specifically about the inception of Zionism, right? Is we were talking about how unpopular it was. So like the obvious next question is, and then how did it become popular? Yeah. And it is just as artificial as anything else to do with Israel, right? So World War I, Ottomans lost. Goodbye, Ottoman Empire. Carve that shit up. So
hello, British Mandate.
Exactly.
Hello, British, my old friend.
The British Mandate of Palestine was created by the UK, and the UK put the Zionists like in charge to administer this area, and that is when the first time that they ever had support from, like, backing with anything that meant anything. So now there's funding, like direct funding from the UK, as well as other like very wealthy people to prop this up. And so it was an artificial sort of how would you say, consent was artificially manufactured, and then it sort of took off from there. After the Holocaust, they used that as a sort of propaganda to again obfuscate the real true issues, because we'll say like, oh, Germany never, it's not just Germany, it's all of Europe. Churchill thought that Hitler had some pretty good ideas before he went to fight him.
Yeah, they would have been best friends.
Yeah.
if they didn't have to
Churchill
fight World
actually
War
got-
II.
Yeah, well, Churchill got his start in major politics by going to Africa to defend the UK's use of concentration camps there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he had no issue conceptually with a concentration camp. It literally is just that Hitler was kind of just openly hostile to Europe and wanted to put all, like, once his expansionist program was revealed to be like, wait, hold on, that's what you're planning? Oh, okay, well, then we're going to have to defend our ruling class from you. You know? That's not to carry any water for Hitler. Like, you know, like, Hitler bad, another, like, you know, another, I'll take the brave stance.
Yeah, you're very brave today.
Right. Hitler bad, but Churchill also bad. Most of the Western leaders who fought him also bad. Honestly, you know, call me out here if anyone wants to disagree with me. That's fine. But the USSR stopped Hitler, and if the USSR hadn't have existed, I actually don't think the United States would have ever joined the war. I think the United States pretty much picked that fight and tried to get involved as much as possible because they worried about the USSR rolling across Europe and having a larger communist presence. And so they literally went in specifically to stop the USSR rolling, to basically create what eventually we have as the Berlin Wall, and then to use things like the Marshall Plan and then other guiding tools to shape the future politics of the region to be anti-communist, anti-socialist, and anti-trade union, which then leads to the eventual construction of the EU, which, while I like being in the EU and I'm pro-immigration and all of the positive, cool parts of the EU, eventually does lead to the EU enforcing kind of Thatcherist austerity into how the economics has to be done. And so the EU is ultimately a neoliberalist tool that destroys whatever countries it's built into. So yeah, I'm kind of a long-term, we need to leave the European Union, but every time anyone talks about leaving the European Union, I'm like, but not like that, because you're like a fascist weirdo. I want to leave the European Union, but based, actually.
Leaves European Union, parentheses, wokely.
Yeah, so when you say like, oh, I'm a Eurosceptic, it makes you sound like you're almost anti-vaccine, like it's like the anti-vax of politics. You sound like such an idiot. But in this case, it's just the common sense standard things that the European Union has been largely beneficial to most countries, which is like somewhat true, depending on how well you cherry pick your facts.
All right, y'all want next slide?
Yeah, let's do it. So I wanted to, this is Itai. Itai is the only Israeli soldier on the trip who quote unquote saw combat. He was again, quote unquote, counterterrorism.
Oh God.
And he was the one that answered all my questions about Gaza because he was stationed there.
Shit, you talked to a fucking concentration camp guard.
Yeah, you are looking at a concentration camp guard. You're looking at someone who probably did war crimes, and right, like an element of the brainwashing here is to humanize this person. Like, this person was my friend. This person, you know, like I had, like that's part of it, to humanize them, to normalize them. Like, I guess again, also he's hot, right? So that's a part of it as well. Like, this is it's on full display.
Yeah, so this is literally like they're just trying to give you a fucking like a smiling, happy, like living, breathing propagandic face for the genocidal project. And like, we know how dark the Israeli project is now, like, because it's like genocide is bad, obviously, but like the level of dehumanism that like dehumanization that we're seeing in this like project is like so fucking barbaric. Like, you know, like obviously we had the right to rape protests,
right,
so like
Yeah.
we know what, like, I'm not gonna say this guy in this photo has done a sex crime, but
I will.
I'd say it's probably very likely.
statistically you're probably looking at a person who has raped the person in captivity, probably to death, and got away with it.
Statistically, yes. And this is right.
Statistically,
this is part
allegedly.
this is part of the Zionist entity's plan, right? So now that they are doing ethnic cleansing, like clear to the whole goddamn world, you have a good amount of American Jews who went on birthright, who met these people, like, right, exactly what you're saying, smiling face, like either way, you now have an emotional connection to the concentration camp guards. And however that manifests, right, you have liberal Zionists who are saying, like, all of this is bad, but in the back of their head they're like, I know, Itai was nice to me, that sort of shit.
I'm amazed. Sorry, you know what? I probably shouldn't even say this for the fear of conjuring this into existence. Why hasn't the United States started borrowing some of these tactics? Like, why aren't kids going on camping trips with border guards or prison guards and just being like, like, oh, that guy who taught you to fish? Well, did you know he fights the Mexicans? So.
Dude,
it's the same concept. That's what they're doing here. Like, so as weird as like people might think that would be, like, if we were to round up a bunch of kids in like New York, bring them out because they're in like a liberal safe haven and they maybe don't know. So we bring them down to like Virginia for a weekend and we like teach them to hunt. And we have some guy come up and he like helps them shoot deer and like, shows them the ropes, and they have like one of the best weekends ever. And then on the way out, it's like, oh yeah, now say, thank you, the border guard, Jenkins, who had you this weekend. Remember, like, when you hear people saying that the border doesn't care about America and it's like only out there to hurt like Mexicans, you've met one and you know what they're like. They're nice. All of them are your friend, border guard Jenkins.
Here's an idea.
Right.
Some places in America have been having, the issue of putting cops in classrooms, and my solution to this is to take the cops
put classrooms in cops.
Put Marines in classrooms.
Oh,
right.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
Unfortunately, American kids might be too far gone. They'll just show them like flashing lights and loud noises, brain rot, and then the Marine will have to shoot up the school. Which, to be fair, the American kids might not notice. They'll just think it's one of their own. They'll think it's an inside job, but still.
Oh God. And then they'll just be ready to be like deployed to LA to, tamp down any violent protests. You know what I'm saying?
5G TikTok brain rot just unleashing Marines. it's like America is just a country. You remember those, like, you would read like sleeper agents, like a pamphlet about like couch cushions, and they would wake up and assassinate JFK. It's just that. But instead, like in America, everyone has those trigger phrases, and it's just loud noises and flashing lights from PTSD, and they're all just waiting to shoot up a concert. Which, by the way, speaking of music, so this is totally unrelated to everything, like, it'll never be relevant to anything, but I just have to, like, I'm telling as many people, whenever I talk about music, immediately my new point of reference for the existence of music. Some people have Bohemian Rhapsody, some people like talk about Beethoven. Did y'all know that Mr. Beast is in the new Mariah Carey video? It's totally unrelated to everything, but I have to just keep saying this to people. It's kind of blowing my... Yeah, it's alarming.
It felt like AI when I first saw it.
I'm never gonna get over it. It's my new thing now. It just lives in my head rent free. I'll add
the picture and post for the viewers.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
please.
It's like when you learn that, like, what was it, like Cleopatra and Abraham Lincoln used to smoke weed or something, and you're like, that doesn't seem real.
Smoke weed every day.
And that one isn't, by the way. I'm not gonna spread this.
I would have believed you, honestly. Abraham Lincoln probably did. I don't know.
We
can't say he did.
There's a couple thousand years of ambiguity there. No, Cleopatra's a famous point of reference for time not making a lot of sense and most people having a bad understanding of it, because the construction of the pyramids, famous big rocks.
Yep.
I'm familiar.
The pyramids are like
4,
so far
years
from
old.
Cleopatra. Yeah, they're so far from Cleopatra that she's actually closer to our time than she was to them being built, even though she was far west of the same
Yeah.
empire that built them.
Yeah,
And
Cleopatra was like
also,
1800s.
yeah, and also, no, not wait, not 1800s. No, she was a bit earlier than that. But she was also like, so not only part of that empire, but that empire, yeah, is so young that the domestication, one of our first animals we ever domesticated was the pigeon, yeah.
Gross.
And the domestication of the pigeon places Cleopatra as the midpoint on the journey to today. Not Cleopatra, sorry, the pyramids as the midpoint. So
Interesting.
So Cleopatra is nearly a midpoint between today and the pyramids. The pyramids are a midpoint between us and the entire concept of keeping animals. Which, so when you start thinking about that, you're like those are like touchstones where people, like, you know, usually your conception of time starts to break. Which is why this whole mythos creation history narrative that like people like the Israeli government like to use is so effective. Is there's no insult to anybody who doesn't know things. But most people are very fucking ignorant about time and have a very bad understanding of how all the different pieces of time fit together. We tend to learn about time in very molar pieces where we have like you kind of know a bit about American history, but you don't really know. Like, you wouldn't know what was the largest pressing issue in Andalusian Spain during the time of JFK's assassination. Even if you happen to know a lot.
His head just did that.
Even if you
My head just did that.
But even if you happen to know even if you happen to know a lot about Spain and a lot about American history, it's very rare that people would have gone through the hassle of having a holistic understanding of history and connecting those pieces together. Similarly, I meet a lot of Irish people who would know about James Connolly, and they would know about Michael Collins, and they would know about Daniel O'Connell. But at no point would they go and check, did any of these men talk about each other, and did they have opinions on each other? But they did, actually. In fact, some of them met. Collins was one of the like back kind of benchers helping out in the Rising before he fled or whatever, the whole complicated there. But the point of the matter is, like, of course these people had opinions about each other, but you're just not trained to think holistically and actually like form those big images. So when someone starts trying to sell you a narrative and tell you something, it's usually by exploiting the fact that you have a lot of the information, but you don't know how all the puzzle pieces actually fit together. You don't have you have the jigsaw pieces and you know them well, but you don't know what it's a jigsaw puzzle of. You don't know what the eventual end image is, and that's where you get manipulated. It's how it fits together, which is why I specifically say you don't want to go too esoteric with this stuff if you haven't done your own like independent, like really well-founded research, which you don't have time to do on every topic, because you're going to just get confused because they're deliberately trying to confuse you.
Another one that is like, this one's good, is Karl Marx would write letters to Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
That's one of them, yeah.
Lincoln left them on red. That's fucked up.
That's because Lincoln wasn't as based as he lets on, but that's like a different thing. Yeah, that's right. Cleopatra was 51 to 30 BC, not 1800s. Sorry, that's a little earlier. I had to go look.
Oh, whoops.
And here's another.
That one up.
Here's another. Cleopatra, not ethnically Egyptian. She is a Ptolemy, which Ptolemy was one of Caesar's generals. So she's Roman.
Are you doing marble statue phrenology on me right now?
I am. I like when Ptolemy became the first Ptolemy became a pharaoh.
Wait.
That's when he started like intermarrying, and so yeah, Cleopatra's Roman.
Awful question, terrible discourse. Gonna open it and immediately uninstall Tumblr. Do you think everyone talks about how great and beautiful Cleopatra was as actually an act of white supremacy because she was an implant in the region?
Yep. That is my going theory. Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry. Hate to be the friend that's too woke and ask, is Cleopatra actually problematic? Can we cancel Cleopatra?
Yeah, canceled.
So now to unwoke this, is this guy Hamas?
He looks like Hamas, so therefore he must be.
I don't like that object he's holding.
Yeah, so
what is this image?
This so we went in the latter half of our trip, we went to southern Israel, which is where the Bedouins, who are like nomadic peoples, that's where they live. And the whole reason that you go here is for a photo op with camels. And you know, much like, you know, you would roll up to some, I don't know, resort in Tanzania to hear, you know, the local people, you know, sing for the white people. The Bedouins here were playing, I actually don't know what instrument this is, like playing this, and while he was doing it, like very clearly like not enjoying any aspect of this, playing it for the white American Jews who are there to ride his camels. And yeah,
and then pay him a pittance probably for it, or maybe just maybe nothing. Maybe this is just part of the like the treaty of like Israel doesn't kill you all, so like, you know.
I don't know what arrangement that they have, but I included this for a couple reasons, because I also wanted to talk about how they hid the apartheid from us. So that's what I wanted to talk about here. When we arrived, the Bedouins were on strike. They were refusing to let us ride their camels, and we had to like wait for them to stop striking, which took like a day, and it changed our schedule. And I'm not actually super familiar with how Israel categorizes the Bedouins, if they just say that they are Palestinian citizens of Israel, or if they have some weird status, like, I don't know.
I'm going to imagine based on the fact that Israel is a fucking European settler colonial project. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're probably treated very similar to how like Roma or like the Irish travelers or other like nomadic groups tend to be treated in you know, in those cultures, which is badly.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that they're probably othered. I don't know though. I'm currently looking it up. Muslim Arab citizens of Israel is the official classification.
There you go. I mean, like, so here's, I will say that the presentation here was meant to evoke some sort of mysticism. So I think your comparison to like the Traveler, like the Romani, I think that's pretty apt.
Because they became associated as
like
fortune tellers and musical people. And, yeah.
But like broader than that as well, is they didn't introduce us to any Palestinians whatsoever, except one, our bus driver, and that is it. And he never, you know, spent time with us. There's actually a lot of Palestinian citizens of Israel are drivers, because on Shabbat, it's one of those weird rules where like God doesn't like it when you drive a car on Friday or whatever, or on Saturday.
Yeah. I do have to clarify something I said kind of in error a moment ago. So I did say that they're the Israeli Arab. What was it? I can't remember the fucking term was. But it was Muslim Arab citizens of Israel. Yeah. No, this is apparently a contested term. So sorry, just disregard that, because basically that's what Israel wants them to be called. And Israel would also like them to be called Israeli Arabs, which is what that's seen as the Israelization of the community. And the community, large parts of it still insist on being called Palestinians or Palestinian citizens, or Palestinian citizens of Israel. So basically, it would depend on the particular Bedouins and their particular relationship with Israel.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But
Sorry,
right, like no, you're good. It's just to show, right? You know, I think that other Jews that I have spoken to about their birthright experience, if they did go on birthright, they did meet like Palestinians and did have like extended conversations and interactions with them. And that was not my experience. It was like so limited that I also don't know how these particular Bedouins that we stayed with, how they identify, but our bus driver truly just shuttled us around. I can't imagine what it's like to shuttle around fucking American tourists in your homeland. That must be an experience. And another thing that comes up a lot is the checkpoints. So we did go through like crazy amount of checkpoints, but the way that it was it was like this necessary annoyance was how it was sort of given to us. So every time we would approach a checkpoint, it'd be like, sometimes they just wave you through because the bus that we were on, somehow it's identifiable as birthright. Sometimes there would be people that would like check underneath the bus if we were hiding something. Sometimes there'd be people that would get on the bus and look around. But it was always like, like an annoyance, like, the same way that you would be like, traffic sucks. It would be like, these checkpoints suck. So again, right, if I met a total of like 2 or 3 Palestinians on my trip, and every time we came into contact with the the material aspects of the apartheid, it was not shown in the full breadth of the atrocity that it is.
Yeah, I'd imagine like they definitely don't want you seeing it. It was similar to like when I went to I went to Northern Ireland, and obviously way less. Similar in the sense of like a tent, I'd imagine, like not even, yeah. But when I went to Northern Ireland, they brought us to a Catholic school, and they brought us like a Protestant school. And the whole idea was the cultural exchanges. So we were going up there to like mix, and the liberal idea that like if everyone just meets each other and like puts away their hatred, then no material change needs to happen. People just can just get over what was done and get over the fact that it's occupied land. Yeah. But it actually was just enraging because I was going through working class Catholic communities where people didn't have very much, and then going to affluent Protestant areas where the people didn't really seem to do a lot, but had large plots of like land or nice houses, or like the school, like the Protestant school we went to was like all the walls were just like lined with like TVs and monitors and like fancy like tech and shit. Like the school had just money to burn. Like it was wasting money. Where the Catholic school we went to was like kind of a little overcrowded, and had like a lot of like kind of like bad, like had more like like big walls with spikes on them, that kind of thing. Where like the Protestant school was really nice and breezy and like casual. It was, you could just see a disparity in this community. You're like, the fact that you're not talking about this, and we're supposed to just pretend that the problem is that these communities are both sectarian, and the Catholics just hate the Protestants, the Protestants just hate the Catholics. It's like kind of puffing your own farts a little bit, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is why I say like it's kind of dangerous if people are in a cult, if they're like propagandists, because your ability to actually understand how a normal person sees this world, because you've spent your life lying to yourself, your family, your kids. Your ability to actually hear like what a normal person's aversion to your system is, and then meet them where they are and talk them around to your way of seeing things. Like, because you're in the cult, you're a bad propagandist for the cult. You know what I mean? Like, you can't convince people who don't agree with you. To some degree, they have to already be into it, if they haven't been indoctrinated from a young age, it's really hard to get them into this because everyone's a true believer. There's like an old expression, I'm sure you've probably heard it, but do you know the difference between a religion and a cult?
Time.
Well, kind of. The punchline I've heard is, in a religion, in a cult, yeah, there's one guy at the top who knows it's all bullshit. In a religion, that guy's dead. And once that guy has died, that's like, and I say Israel has entered that period where it has now turned into like it's a true believers cult. Like it's run by people who were raised in it, the people who knew it was a military political program, your Herzls, who said like, yeah, we know what we're doing. they're gone. It's now the
Right.
generation they raised that runs it. Of the Wailing Wall.
So this is the Wailing Wall. I wanted to, so
Mhm.
we did this. I just wanted to share like a quick like aside, like a quick experience. So when we went
Yeah.
to the Wailing Wall, there's a lot of ultra Orthodox, extremely religious Jews who are here, as I understand it, nearly every day, if not every day. And we're very clearly, you know, we're all the kids in blue, right? So we're very clearly there on a trip. You know, Hasidic man came up to talk to me and a couple other people, and so my father is not Jewish. He was raised Lutheran, but I think historically, since we're Slavs, there's like Eastern Orthodox somewhere around there. But either way,
Lutheran, Slavic, and Jewish. You need to pick a struggle.
I know. I'm also on my mom's side. I am Romani. Like we are.
Oh, yeah, we
my
talked
mom
about
always.
this.
My mom always, like growing up, said that we were gypsy Jews. So like I did like my uncle is the keeper of familial knowledge. The place that we are from is actually current day Moldova. So I don't know. Do with that as you will.
Are you Moldovan, Mama Liga? All right, that's a
Yes, that's
Hasanabi
my
head joke.
That's my secret. That's my alt. So I was talking to this Hasidic man,
Yeah.
and you know, very cheery, and he explained to me that, you know, it's great that I'm here, it's great that I'm like experiencing this, but he made sure to say, like, you know, because of your father, your blood is dirty. And he told me this story. He said, you know, the Jews have the correct path, right? So when Adam and Eve were kicked out of Eden, they landed in the mud, and the Jews, they pulled themselves out of the mud, and everyone that doesn't follow this path, you know, they're in the mud. And he said, you know, there's mud in your blood, essentially. Like he called me a mud blood, like straight up.
Oh wow.
And I you know, was very like insulted and upset, but I wanted to share the story to show you like the kind of thought that exists here, especially in like the most extreme, like alt-right, ultra orthodox, super conservative. It's just eugenics. It's just Nazi shit.
Yeah.
It's just,
It always
again,
was.
it's about
Well,
purity.
On that, on how it's Nazi shit, and there's a sentiment that fascism is an ever shrinking circle where we always have to find a new group to out other. Yeah, you asked me. We asked in general the universe, and I've gone off looking. I took it upon myself. What's the situation with the Bedouins in the region? Yeah, we just asked. So I looked it up. If you want to go back to the previous slide with the Bedouin for a moment, just to have that visual on screen. So I found a website. It's My Jewish Learning. And they have a section on contemporary issues. And one of them is, many Israeli demographers warn that the Bedouin problem threatens the stability of Israel's south. Professor
Bedouin
Arnon
problem.
Sofer, chair of the Geostrategic and Security Studies at Haifa University, predicts within 5 years, the next intifada will break out in Negev, which is the region of the Bedouin. He lays out a dire scenario pointing to security problems, crime, drug dealing, and extortion of business owners by Bedouin gangs. And then highlights that the Bedouins have ties to Jordan, Syria, and Egypt, raising further security concerns. He goes on to say there is no difference between a Bedouin and a Palestinian.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Just Nazi shit. Just straight up
Yeah,
Nazi
yeah.
shit.
Yes, I was just looking that up, and I looked that up a minute ago, and I was like waiting for a chance to bring it up, and then you said there were the Nazi shit. By the way, they also then go on to highlight in this document how many of them, 79% of the Bedouin community, are on welfare.
Of course.
So it's literally like they're doing crime and we're paying for it, like straight Nazi shit. So there you go.
I'll like to jump off of that shit, right? How right, I don't even know how to like introduce this. So when the UN, you know, drew their map and the Israelis were really fucking excited about it. There is, I suppose, like, I don't even know how to talk about this. The parts of the land that were given or you know, drawn to be Israel, it's like, okay, the Palestinians get all of this like really good land and we get the shit land. That's how they talk about it, by the way. Like, they gave us like the really shitty land. So if you look at the map of Israel Palestine, that knife edge in the south is all desert. Like the whole thing, the whole knife edge, that's where the Bedouins are. That is just desert. And they complain, like the Israelis complain, that it looks like they were given a lot of land, but this knife edge here is like useless. So we were actually given shit land. And that's where the Bedouins live. So again, another way to sort of tangentially do racism, you know?
But, damn.
You could go to the next slide too.
Yeah. All right, so
This
some
is
of the
the
stuff
last-
like knocks the like thought out of you. You're like, I want to respond to this, but I'm kind of like, what the fuck do I say to this?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. This is my last slide. I just wanted to show, like, right,
Got it.
we're
Yeah,
in
I
Jerusalem.
I see Alexa Mosque in the background. Yeah.
And just to like tie this up, right? This was a largely like, it's spun as like a spiritual experience. We were largely an unserious group of like children, like in a tour group. So I don't know, the whole thing retrospectively is, you know, incredibly shameful, but also, you know, very insidious in the ways that we were manipulated while we were there. So this is sort of just like my look at my former stupid friend pointing at the camera like a doofus. I don't know.
Yeah, and like I'm just looking at this, I'm just immediately clocking like everything's so ancient and clearly not from like, you know, the time period that like Israel has been there, except for like surveillance cameras. It's like literally it's just a stolen city and they put up cameras in case anybody tried to take it back.
Yup.
Like, no, we've like no, we took this fair and square, thank you. This is ours now. But yeah, like another aspect which we didn't really get onto, but thank you for your photos. Do we have more slides from like the Jelly? Have you added anything after this, or is this?
Nah, this is the last
we done
one.
with the slide. Okay, so we didn't get into it then, which is fine. But you've heard of the phenomena of like the part of the invention of Israeli culture has been taking Palestinian like things, you know, like Palestinian
Like
cuisine,
falafel
music,
and
and just
hummus.
claiming,
Yeah.
oh, this is Israeli.
100%.
And then claiming that it was stolen from them, like, you know, so long ago that it's actually, you know, that they're reclaiming it somehow after like thousands of years, like as if no cultural, which is a very interesting thing of like no cultural exchange, nothing ever happens, like, you know, like no, like everything's the same as it was 1,000 years ago, and it just, you know, it's outrageous. Even if it was true that it was originally Israeli somehow. There's been 1,000 years of people making it and working on it and perfecting it. It's like whatever they're making today is not yours. Like, have you ever seen old Italian food, like pre-tomato?
No.
We brought that up earlier for a moment, but Italians didn't used to make the kind of food they make now. Italian food is actually surprisingly modern. Most things that you would think of like, oh, old Italian food, like, you know, just like a grandma used to make, yeah. That's not what they used to make a long time ago. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Garum. Do you know what garum is?
Yeah.
Do not.
Garum is a well, they would take a pot and they would fill it with like fish carcasses, and they would then bury it and they would let it go rancid.
They also
under the Italian.
They also like put a hefty amount of salt in there. It's
Yeah,
it's
salt
basically fish
and
sauce.
yeah, salt. Well, it's salt and salt and the waste products of like other fish. Like it's just like
Yeah,
it's
just
the pot of like
entrails and heads and
inedible fish.
yeah.
And that was the kind of thing that the Romans used to use to flavor a lot of their food. They also used things like rose water, right? And that all got removed when they started doing some, colonial shit and started like, expanding and started taking in spices from other regions because they kind of stopped making their stuff. Um,
And then
it's like,
they introduced weed, and then
yeah,
fast forward a century, and Mussolini loses World War II.
yeah, and they literally had a way. They literally had a way of pointing at things and saying, "This is what we take from that country." This is like kind of a more nuanced take, but I got this from unfortunately cancelled Predator or whatever, fucking Neil Gaiman, yeah.
Mhm.
But Neil Gaiman once in the Sandman series had Julius Caesar, and someone tried to actually him on Tumblr and say that they tried to say your Julius Caesar referenced corn, but the importation of corn from the New World didn't happen for like centuries until after his death. And then like Neil Gaiman like came in like a fucking like Neil the author came in like a fucking Marvel villain and was like, "Oh, you've stepped right into my trap." Did you know that the word corn is actually Roman? It was we it's not
Yeah,
that it
just any
came from like the,
small kernels
well
of
it
anything,
wasn't
really.
it's not that the indigenous people of North America called corn. They called it maize.
Yeah.
Rome started the habit of if you went to a place, let's say barley grew freely, barley would be the corn
Yeah, barley
of the
corns.
land.
It's
Yeah, but it
Mm.
was
it's
the
also where
corn of that land.
it's also where we get the term corned beef. So
Interesting.
it's not, because, they somehow mixed corn with the beef. No, it's because the beef has been corned, as in, and the corns in this
Milled into
case.
small pellets.
No, what has been
Oh,
milled into small pellets is the salt. So you have
ah,
what's it called? What was the term I just used? Corning salt. There we go.
oh, there.
And so yeah, it's just a really coarse grain salt that you like coat your meat in, and then you just let it sit, and
But
that's corned beef.
nice. But the point of bringing this up is that so the Romans when they were looking at a place, they would say, "Oh, well, so that's let's say North French corn, that's Southern German corn. Everything was
Hmm.
corn. Corn is just what grew plentifully there." So they viewed your land as occupied and that as an extractive thing that they could just steal. And so they it was just the most popular crop they could take from you because it grew so freely and readily where they just recently occupied. Um and so when he was like, no, so the Romans called everything corn, and that just and then when the Americans like when the pilgrims went over to like do the colonizing of America, they just took the word corn and called the new thing they found there corn.
Yeah.
And then and then they that just stuck because it was such a long term like colonial project. They basically forgot the use of the word corn and then just started calling it corn. But that's why it's corn and maize. Like that's why there's two words for it. But yeah, it's just interesting to like start looking at like this absorption. They call it syncretism, uh, which is like to go to a place and mix their culture and your culture and you know claim like, oh, actually our festival falls on the same day as your festival, so maybe we pray to the same god, and like try and like roll your culture in under theirs, and then slowly over time steal your religious symbols and turn them into like decorations and art, and then downplay the importance of your religion as they then force assimilation upon you, you know.
Yeah,
And
and
Israel is
the
doing the imperial project, like they're doing what we've seen, like it's standard playbook. Very good.
and that's why the Mizrahi Jews are such useful tools to the Zionist project, because that is how they establish their indigeneity.
Yeah.
You know, like Itai, I recall that he's a Persian, you know. So how does the Israeli state treat him? I can tell you it's different from Ashkenazi Jews, but at the same time, he's Israeli. He's part of the IOF. He is, you know, just absorbed into this concocted culture.
So whiteness is obviously social construct. We've talked about this, all of us, I'm sure, at different points in our different careers as being content creators. But would your whiteness have changed if you were in Israel? Would you be considered less or more white, or like would you have any sort of change? Because like in my head, I'm like, I feel like the fact that you're part Romani would probably fuck you up a little bit in Israeli culture at some point.
What would fuck me up in Israeli culture is probably more so my descent from Jews that were, you know, in the Holocaust specifically.
Yeah. Israel is terrible to Holocaust survivors.
So I have my ancestors, my pretty immediate, you know, like they were in the Holocaust, and the way that Israelis sort of view those Jews are as you know, weaker, you know, susceptible, like the victimhood is looked down upon, and I don't know, it's really fucked up, and that's probably what would, but either way, as an Ashkenazi, I would have a lot more liberties, I suppose. Like I would be eligible for higher office if I like was in government or some shit like that.
So you walked away from a reasonable amount of privilege. This is basically the thing. You would have been probably
so brave.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's
honestly, you know, people don't tell me that enough. How
much of a brave little boy you are.
What offer? It's worth noting what offer you were made. You know what I mean? Like everybody has their little deal they could make to get more power. Like it's, you know, we all have that. Like if I was to, like, I'm obviously an Irish leftist. Yeah. There's very little money in that, because ultimately I'm either talking to Irish people who go, yeah, we get it, Britain bad, yeah, or I'm talking to like Americans who disagree with me most of the time. Yeah. Obviously not anymore. I found like a pocket on the internet. But for a long time, like a lot of Americans, like they want me to be more Catholic. They want me to be more staunchly conservative. Like, you know, like if I was to come out and tell American right wingers what they want to hear about Ireland, you know what I mean? It would be much more lucrative. It's a thing a lot of people have to recognize. At some point, there is a choice for you to sell out to like white supremacy or empire, and, you know, do your part to further this. And it just requires people bit by bit refusing that, to not do it. You know, people like yourself going on Birthright and being like, no, like the Israeli society is deeply sick and unwell, and like needs to be dismantled.
That came like over time, and that's a whole other conversation of like how I got myself out. But like when I got back, I was like, okay, like how do I get back to Israel? Because it was such a formative experience. It worked, and I wanted to go back. So when I was graduating from college, I applied to work at a startup in Tel Aviv, and I even had an interview. And I did not like go forward specifically because the interviewer was such a huge jackass. And I'll say this like with my full chest: Israelis are so fucking, like, as a whole, so fucking rude, so fucking like overbearing, and like just unpleasant to talk to. Like it's you know, I think that stereotype is very much, you know, you can obviously not every single, but who fucking cares here, right? They're just like not, well,
it's
kind.
colonizer. It's colonizer culture. Like if I meet anybody who's like a monarchist unionist in Ireland, those people are insufferable pricks, because basically, I'll be rude to unionists. They are whiny, like babies who are so demanding that the state constantly give them everything for free and babysit them and let them be the ruling class based on like their superior genetics or some bullshit, right? they're so like demanding that everyone bend over and let them have the world, that whenever they get the smallest like inconvenience, they freak the fuck out. We see this with like when the Afrikaners went over to America. Somebody made a joke. Trump has actually met a group of people more whiny and demanding than American Southerners. And then somebody in the comments under that comment was like, wait until they have to take back the Israelis.
True.
Like like imagine when like Ben Gvir and Netanyahu have to move to like Pennsylvania and get a normal job and like work in like a company and have like peers and equals. Like they're going like it's going to be temper tantrum city. Like these are people who've been elevated to a chosen magical class that's better than everyone else.
Yeah, they're
You think
wizards,
gonna,
man.
Yeah, do you think they're going to be able to just be normal? No. Like that's why like so many like white supremacists in America are like they if they continue believing the fantasy, they're God's magic cum babies, and like they get to be like the kings of the land. Where if they don't, they have to go get a job at the IHOP. Mm-hmm. It's like, do you want to be like literally like a ball spell ejaculated onto this earth to rule mankind, or do you want to serve pancakes?
I choose to believe in nut magic if that's the case.
Pretty much.
You're saying you hate waffles. That's okay.
I'm saying waffles are a blight on this planet. I will say, okay, I've never had an American waffle, your little dessert waffles that you make where they're like 85% sugar with 20% more sugar. But I like potato waffles. Apparently Americans don't do potato waffles.
Oh, interesting. No, we don't.
Yeah, it's just a solid waffle just made of potato. They pop them in your toaster when they're frozen. And if this is a fire hazard, you're not supposed to do this. This is how I make them, because you can probably make them in your oven or something. But like two sessions in the toaster and a little bit of water and electricity, and you got some delicious food. So
what? What?
Well, because you're kind of defrosting a frozen potato with ice on it from frozen to like to cooked in one sitting in a toaster. So you know what I mean?
Well, here's cultures collide, because like the Jews are all about potato pancakes. We have they're called latkes.
Making latkes in a toaster.
My Jewish friend never made me latkes, so I did a little bit of like I met a Jewish person and I was like, oh my god, that's cool. I've never met a Jewish person before. It's my first time meeting a Jewish person, and I'm one of these like if I go on vacation, if I come to your town and vacation, I want to ride the tour bus. I want to go to the museums. I want to go to like your history galleries. I want to see like your war medals. Like, I'm a dork, right? I want to eat your food. I don't want to eat in like an Irish pub. I want to eat whatever your food is. You know, that's kind of like I'm there to experience. I can't. I didn't go to Istanbul to eat a burger. It's kind of my worldview. Yeah. And so when I meet somebody who's like Palestinian, which I've done, I meet somebody who's like Jewish or whatever, like when I have these experiences, I'm immediately like, tell me more. Yeah. So what he did do is he did bring me in a dreidel.
Hey.
So
yeah, we just got those. That was lying around, actually.
That was huge for me, getting to play with a dreidel.
As long as we're on the topic of cultural overlaps, anybody who's familiar with Parliament Funkadelic, there's a song that they wrote called Flashlight. So anybody not familiar with Parliament Funkadelic, they were like a funk band from like the 70s and 80s and whatever. Really popular. If you know the name George Clinton, he was the bassist, whatever. Or he was the vocalist. But anyway, that this is all besides the point. The song Flashlight. There's a like refrain melody that he like repeats throughout the song. Da, 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 da. And George Clinton actually stated in an interview that he actually learned that song like rehearsing for one of his friend's bar mitzvahs. And he actually stuck that melody in a few of his songs.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say, when you started that sentence of like, well, while we're on the topic, I thought you were gonna be like of cultural fetishization, because that's always the thing I try to avoid. Is like, oh, you're from a culture, tell me everything about it. You're now my, if I want to, I
Yeah.
want to steal as much. I'm always like, no, 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 like don't make me a remic. I'm just trying to be like, I'm genuine and appreciator. Um, Although I will say the only culture that I will completely consume and be like a little bit of a like I'm not like a weeb. I don't have any of that in me except I'm a Greekaboo. I will if you give me Greek culture, I will be a little
Ah.
bit like this is,
Is
like
it
I've
for
been
the
to
is it for
Greece.
So
the
you
I've
mean
been
gayness?
to the
you mean Turkish culture?
okay, okay, okay. Look at this. Okay, look, it's all Greater Crimea. People say Crimea
Ooh.
belongs to the
Yeah,
to the
no, give it to
Turks.
the
No,
Tatars.
Turkey belongs to Crimea,
Yeah.
which is all Greater Ireland, but that's a difference.
It's all Greater Kumarikandam. But so yeah, I do believe this is a podcast. How do you guys feel?
Yeah.
That was a podcast.
Yeah,
Cool.
that was pretty good. It was nice to have this conversation.
Yeah, next
We'll
episode
probably
is
have
on the
to
Yeah,
water
I had a ton
car.
of fun.
the what now?
Oh, next episode is on the water car.
Power and carbohydrate. I do have something I need to show you at some point. Before we go, I'm going to put this as an open thing in case anybody in the community makes it this far and has any information on this. Have any of you seen the black guy popping off on TikTok for turning plastic into a source of cheap free fuel?
Yeah, I've actually been seeing him for the
No.
past year now. Basically, the
I
whole
don't-
thing that. Mhm.
Good. Oh, I was gonna say I haven't looked into it. I don't know if that's full of shit. If that's like, all the
So-
comments are full of your usual of hide him from the CIA.
So yeah, I actually encountered him like last year, and I already like did my digging, and so it seems like he's actually legit. Like, so the process that he's using is called microwave pyrolysis. So basically, the idea is that literally we just make everything out of oil now. Like that's all that plastics and artificial fibers and threads and all that. It's just oil.
He's turning it back in. He's turning it back into oil.
And so yeah, if you can inject enough energy into it for, a prolonged period of time, then you can break down the extremely long polymers back into like, their base like chains. And the thing that like this has been a known process for a while. It's just that the thing that people like it never got commercial like push because it just wasn't efficient enough, at the time that it was introduced, and it just kind of got left by the wayside. And it seems that he's trying to, pick that mantle back up. I don't know anything about like the efficiency rates of his process.
Yeah.
However, I will say he does seem to be mildly knowledgeable about like the process and the construction of the apparatus.
And this is the thing, like, even if we stop drilling for oil, we'll still have a lot of plastic to collect and get rid of because microplastics are in our balls and we're 3D printing children these days. We're having the first generation of half Funko Pop children,
It's true.
And so, like, realistically, we're still going to have to do something with the plastic and we'll still need combustible shit going forward. So, like, it could be a good way to turn solar into a,
Yeah.
a burnable
Are
thing.
you saying that we should burn balls for energy?
Honestly, I've been on team. I've been on team. If hormones were easier to get, I actually am an oropectomy kind of enjoyer. Like I'm willing to get rid of my balls for the aerodynamics. Because think about it. Like think of the speed I could fuck at.
I'm always
because
sitting on
right
these
now,
motherfuckers.
right now when I'm swinging, like when
Yeah.
I'm pumping, I got some like I got some like load bearing like parachute boys just kind of dangling there. If
Yeah.
they're not there though,
Say
I'm
more.
aerodynamically equipped. Like I'm built for like think you don't build a boat with like an empty like loose sack on the bottom, right?
like your
It just
balls are
dragging
just
the water.
Your balls are just your mass dampeners.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is like if I take them off, it's kind of like when you take the restrictor out of your motorcycle and suddenly you're able to go like, you know what I mean? Like if you think I could finish quick now, I could be done before she even has her pants off if I get rid of my balls. Like I'm optimizing. I'm on the crypto cum set.
Oh shit. I feel like if you cut your balls off, you'd be making like 6 YouTube videos. a month. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Because I'd have so much more room for activities in my schedule. Because my
Yeah.
nutting, I would be nutting so quick.
You're just
Because like,
lighter.
because like, here's the thing: I stream like 12 hours, or whatever a day, and then I make YouTube videos and then do the podcast. Do you have any idea how hard it is to also ejaculate the requisite 10 times a day you're supposed to be coming?
Facts.
No, but you should tell us in great detail.
Please, for the record.
Yeah, closer into the microphone and in full legalese for the court.
Under penalty of perjury.
Yeah, under penalty of splurgery.
I'm glad that you're coming. Like, I'm always curious
Do
if
not
my
come.
homies are able to.
No, I am a nut
if my
maxer.
homies are able to climax. Yeah.
I'm legitimately a 5 times a day kind of person, and I've had this thing about
Respect.
because I have depression, and I'm like, look, if I go on SSRIs, I've heard that they can make it hard to finish, or make it that you don't even want to, and I'm like, why am I on earth if I'm not ejaculating 5 times
Yeah.
a day?
I mean, it's all about mindset. Because like
Yeah.
I'm on it and I can also come. So not to brag or anything.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
as long as it doesn't fuck up my smegma cum set, like, like, I'm not out here trying to like mess up the only good thing in life, which is just excessive amounts of nutting. Oh God, sorry. Wait. Okay, I made a mistake. Maybe we have to end. I just seen a video. Oh, blah, blah. Sorry. Terrible things.
Oh, shit.
What's going on?
I went on Twitter scrolling as we've been talking, and
Are
I
you
just
about
seen
to
it.
jork your peanuts right now?
No, it's the negative. No, not especially not to this.
He's
From
shaking it.
15 different reasons, not this. No, but I just was randomly scrolling.
If
on
anyone
Twitter.
has made it this far, yo, how's it going?
Leave a comment. Yeah, it's just turned into the casual.
I
hangout
was
again.
here. I was here for the cum part.
Yeah.
If you can hear this comment, I'm jaking it. In the
So absolutely no jerking into this content for 15 different reasons, right? So firstly, it's a video of a child who has a loose tooth,
Oh, okay.
and she's like poking her tooth, and then her pet bird comes over and puts its head inside of her mouth and pulls the tooth out with its beak.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So that just like the idea of like just so much of that just put my head in a weird place of like what. Why do you just have birds roaming around the house? Why are they putting their what is happening? So anyway,
Calcium.
yeah, but this feels like it's been a fun podcast. We ran a little longer ramble at the end because this is actually, I think, the first time all 3 of us have been on a call yapping. So
Yeah.
That's true.
we jumped right in on the business end. So you got some actual socializing at the end. That's all this has been. Because like you don't know, you don't
That's
really
how
know
we
somebody
normally
until you've talked about Israel and jerking it.
Oh my gosh! Wait. Okay. Wait.
okay.
Wait.
All right.
Okay. I reminded myself about the eugenics shit.
Okay. Here we go.
The state of Israel has my DNA. The state of Israel has. They swabbed my cheek. This is real, not my jizz, but they swabbed my cheek. So
I thought you got by the
if
semen
you
retention unit.
I was about to say, if you die, are you on the one last nut gang?
yeah,
For anyone who
the
doesn't
semen
know-
retrieval.
Yeah,
squad.
for anyone who doesn't know, if an Israeli like dies, they send like SEAL Team 6 to like basically
Jork
one
it.
last nut out of the corpse.
Yeah, that's real.
Yes.
It's very odd.
It's for
They do jorkle every
So, like,
corpse
very-
one last time.
so like very notoriously, you cannot do like DNA tests in Israel.
Yeah.
And
Because they don't want you
I don't know
realizing how not indigenous you are.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know like the specifics of this. I believe like you also cannot be like you can't be a blood donor ? Right? There's this whole really disgusting. Well, every aspect of this shit is disgusting, but they like will steal organs and blood from Palestinians for organ transplants and operations and shit. That's real. But they tried to sell us on becoming organ donors in Israel at the end of our trip. So they swabbed my cheek. They have my DNA. and they're like, yeah, we might hit you up for some blood at a certain point in your life. So I'm waiting for that call.
Oh no. Does anybody want to make the blood libel joke?
I'm not going.
I'll let you do it.
No.
I'll just leave it at that.
No.
That's fucked up. You're making the viewer do it in their head. That's crazy.
Oh God.
I'm so glad I remembered that. It's fucking weird, dude.
Yeah,
we do have a future episode about blood, which Jelly has been very excited to eventually get to, which is the Halloween episode, I believe. So do follow for the eventual episode, which will be about some fucked up blood shit.
Also, JFK, you got anything you wanna plug?
Yeah.
I'll plug my Twitch shit. JFK_rotting. I stream leftist politics, news, and then we do, part of being like a good person for the movement is having good mental health. So we do a lot of fun stuff. Take care of yourself. I like ghosts. I like art. I like maps. I like all kinds of stuff. So come chill. I go live. I try to go live at noon Central Time, but sometimes that doesn't work. And yeah, I will be dropping YouTube content hopefully soon. Crossing my fingers. And same at JFK rotting. You'll find me. It's a picture of the JFK, who's just me smoking a gar. Thank you guys so much for having me.
It's been great having you.
Just real quick, I'll also add that JFK is also a fucking cash money artist.
Thank you. Yes, I'm headed to Mexico actually in 2 days for an art residency. I'll be there for the rest of the summer.
From Guatemala. Like, if you keep traveling to South American countries, they're going to kill you. Man. Your riz is too strong. They're going to think you're CIA.
I'm doing my true culture is colonization, so I am living that culture.
You left Zionism to become an American.
I'm just thinking less like colonizer and more Shadow the Hedgehog. Y'all can fill in the blanks, okay?
Okay.
Damn. I would share my art too, but that's under my government name. And that ain't public information.
That's reasonable. Valid. I was going to say, I will, since we had this conversation, I do want to always kind of like, if we're going to talk about this, we should probably pick some attention to people who, have another perspective. Same side, same agree with us. Not like a both sides thing or sorry. I check out Ray_K, RAY_KHAY. That's a Palestinian citizen of Israel who can give you another perspective and the different. So like you've got your perspective, obviously, of being, having been in the Zionist world, like that kind of stuff. Ray has the Palestinian having been in Israel as a second-class citizen perspective. So like people should go there and check out that. That's Ray K on that Twitch.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hear that Ray K's mods and VIPs are really attractive, awesome, sexy people.
Yeah, it's not like everyone on this call is either a mod or a VIP.
I don't know.
We are so sexy.
But yeah, no. I just felt like it would be worth highlighting that we do have some like Palestinian people like that we're all kind of connected to and close to, and we will hopefully, if we have more angles to ever talk about this again, we will probably bring them on for that too and try and get more. But like it's been beneficial having you on for this. So that was something I wanted to shout out. What about you, Jelly? Do you want to shout something out? I could shout out my own stuff, but I'm like, I'll leave it. I'll use my time for Ray.
All right. And so Haiti Doc released, companion bid released. Next, Bad Bunny turning me into a Maoist, maybe.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to listen to Bad Bunny.
Maoist if it's Bad Bunny.
Yeah, Bad Bunny's turning people into Maoists. I'm gonna have to listen to Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Just listen to reggaeton in general is my advice.
Like, wait, is reggaeton Damian Marley?
Oh no, that's reggae.
Oh, that's reggae.
Oh, that's just straight reggae. Okay, what's the difference between reggae? Oh, you know what? That's not a now thing. We can talk about that later. I don't know shit.
Esotechnica, your number one tech history and music taxonomy podcast outside of Zion.
Oh, what the fuck? Why?
That's perfect. Thank you guys so much. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Are we done recording? Still recording now?
Yeah.
All right, cool. We can call it.